Ever wonder how every single martial arts protagonist stumbles into insane power-ups? You slip, plunge off a steep cliff, and swear you're done for, only to land right on top of a giant dead spirit beast. Talk about ridiculous plot armor, right? I mean, who just gets saved by a convenient giant snake mattress? Or maybe you casually sit on a tavern cushion and bam, a legendary secret manual pops out. Or you stumble into a glowing cave where a divine sword is just waiting for a master. But guess what? None of that fate stuff is random at all. Every single one of those cliché encounters was meticulously set up by this little mastermind. Right when a hero is about to get gobbled up by a giant monster, whispering quickly, she's lurking right in the background, setting up the exact crisis needed for their epic awakening. Cushion manuals? Snake traps? She literally hid that book inside the tavern cushion while hanging upside down from the roof. The sheer dedication to crafting plot armor is wild. Right now, she's deep inside a cavern setting up mechanical formations. She's coughing up a storm from all the dust, but hey, professionalism comes first. She even turns on secret fog generators to create the perfect mysterious dramatic atmosphere for the incoming hero. Suddenly, her master's telepathic voice booms in her head. He jokes that her loud complaining sounds like a slaughtered chicken, telling her to wrap it up because chicken stew is waiting. She quickly places a priceless spirit pill into a stone chest and frantically sweeps away all her tracks so everything looks completely untouched. Outside, a clueless young cultivator spots smoke rising from the entrance. He thinks he's about to hit the jackpot finding rare mist grass and walks right into the trap. Suddenly, a divine light erupts from the cave as the guy stumbles onto the hidden treasure. Soso watches from a safe distance with a satisfied smirk. Another generic protagonist successfully birthed into the world, mission accomplished. With a powerful burst of footwork, she launches herself high into the sky, soaring across the treetops like a total ghost. She lives in a dangerous place where even wild birds lose their strength and plummet from the sky, Mount Hyeong-ak. Enshrouded in thick, mysterious fog all year round, even the surrounding martial arts sects treat this mountain like a forbidden zone. And her master is the true puppet master of the entire continent, the shadowy genius who orchestrates every single destiny in the martial arts world. Landing gracefully in a secluded clearing, she decides she's far enough to shed her undercover identity. She grabs the edges of her face and peels off a hyper-realistic disguise mask in one smooth pull. Beneath the ugly mask is a super cute girl with vibrant blue hair and twinkling eyes. Talk about an extreme makeover. But no rest for the wicked. Master's telepathic voice rings out again, ordering her to hurry up because their next target, So Young, is near Cheongsan Peak. She rubs her ringing ears and yells back to stop using telepathy because her head is pounding. Reluctantly, Master agrees to quiet down. If you're wondering how a cute kid became the right hand of the world's greatest puppet master, we gotta rewind time a few years. It all started a few years ago in Honam, right in the middle of the famous Beggars Gang. Veteran beggar freaks out as fleas get flicked right into his ear. Ew, get those gross bugs off me. He runs off screaming how a rookie beggar can somehow be nastier than him. Soso just pouts, calling him dramatic. Sitting on the dusty dirt floor, she looks down at her tiny bruised legs with a deep sigh. Back then, her name was Soge, literally meaning small beggar. Once you end up on the streets, nobody cares who you used to be. The martial world had been completely devastated by endless bloody wars between the orthodox, unorthodox, and demonic factions. Staring into a clear puddle, Soso was completely stunned by the reflection staring back at her. She had literally reincarnated as a dirt-poor beggar in a brutal world where life is cheap. But here's the crazy twist. This wasn't just any fantasy world. It was the exact martial arts game called Descent of the Heavenly Demon that she designed the story for. Looking at her stubby little arms and tiny hands, she realizes she's just a background NPC beggar, so minor she didn't even give herself a named role. In her past life, she was assistant manager So, a game writer dying from endless overtime. Her boss literally told her to go sleep on a break room cot. She went to sleep from sheer exhaustion and woke up as a homeless barefoot toddler sprinting through dirt alleys. A friendly bald beggar spotted her sprinting speed and shouted, "Hey kid, you're pretty fast. Want to join the beggars gay?" Before she could even process it, he scooped her up like a puppy and announced her as their newest recruit. He patted her head and officially named her Soge, meaning small beggar. Just like that, her new life as a professional street kid began. As the bays passed, a hilarious realization slowly hit her. Bowing deeply to generous townspeople and catching flying coins, she realized she was actually custom built for this job. Sitting with a bowl brimming with shiny gold coins, she grinned from ear to ear. Honestly, ditching corporate burnout to become a rich street beggar with zero overtime sounds amazing. Would you accept transmigrating into a game if it meant living like this, or is that too risky? Drop your thoughts below. She would sleep in as long as she wanted, listen to street gossip, and let the older beggars pamper her because she was so adorable. Late in the afternoon, she'd drop off useful rumors at the branch leader's hut, and boom, workday complete. Absolutely zero overtime. Just when she thought she had cracked the code to a lazy life, a major problem popped up. Suddenly, a stern voice barks from behind her. Soso jumps out of her skin, clutching her coin bowl tightly. Standing over her is a freckled senior beggar boy glaring at her with total suspicion, asking what she's doing. Soso notices the single knot tied around his waist belt. Oh boy, in the beggars gang hierarchy, a one-knot beggar outranks her. She immediately puts on her dumbest innocent act. I was just practicing flea attacks. Want to join? The senior beggar sighs and tells her the branch leader's calling for her. As she walks past, the senior beggar keeps a sharp, suspicious eye on her. Something tells her this kid knows she's way too smart for a toddler. Looking up at the vast sky, Soso knows one thing for sure. In a heartless martial world, standing out is dangerous, and survival means staying 5 steps ahead of everyone else. Picture this. You reincarnate into your own fantasy world as a dirt-poor toddler, and the moment someone yells your name, your survival instincts immediately kick into overdrive. Whew. Young Soso dashes through the dirt alley like her life depends on it. Hanging out by the hut entrance is the beggars gang branch leader, frantically waving her over like a nervous dad at a soccer game. In this guild, belt knots represent rank, and seeing 3 knots on his waist means he's the big boss around here. Meanwhile, Soso is sitting at the absolute bottom of the food chain with 0 knots and not even a single drop of internal energy in her belly. Talk about starting a martial arts game on ultra hard mode. The branch leader grabs her head like a basketball, whining about how slow she is today. Naturally, Soso hits him with her classic innocent baby routine, because around these muscle-brained beggars, playing the neighborhood clueless kid is her ultimate survival strategy. Deep down, her brain is spinning. Why on earth would the top leader personally come outside just to escort a tiny rookie like her? Something super fishy is going on. The branch leader slowly slides open a creaky wooden door, bowing so low his head practically touches the floor as he welcomes a mysterious guest inside. Soso peeks out from behind his robes, completely stunned. A great hero visiting a dusty beggar hut? Whisper, now this is definitely not on our daily schedule. Inside sits a ridiculously gorgeous nobleman with sleek blue hair, flicking open a folding fan with pure elegance. Seriously, why does every martial arts expert look like a walking beauty commercial? Look at that aura. Blossoms and sparkles literally manifest out of nowhere around this guy. The artist clearly poured the entire animation budget into his entrance. Soso stands there completely mesmerized, her eyes sparkling like diamonds, as the handsome stranger looks right down at her and asks if she's the famous Soge. Hiding half his face behind his fan, he casually explains that he's searching for a master of lightness footwork, and rumor has it that this specific branch holds the fastest runners in the entire region. Soso's heart skips a beat. Could this actually be it? In every classic martial arts story, this is the exact moment the protagonist stumbles into a legendary hidden master. She clasps her tiny hands together in sheer excitement. Having a top-tier master is literally her golden ticket to surviving in a brutal world full of bloodthirsty cultivators. Because let me tell you, without a powerful backer, a weak kid like her just gets tossed around by senior beggars like a rag doll. The martial world is totally heartless to non-fighters. She clenches her tiny fists with pure determination. She's done being at the bottom of the food chain. It's time to secure a top-tier bodyguard no matter what it takes. In her head, Soso starts breaking down the legendary 3 spoon classes of the martial world because, just like back in modern society, your starting spoon determines your entire life trajectory. First up, you've got the cheat code spoon class, the ultimate shortcut to becoming an unstoppable monster right out of the womb. This refers to having a rare physical constitution like an extreme yin or yang body that automatically digests divine pills and doubles your martial arts training speed. If you're born with one of these bodies, martial arts manuals basically read like children's picture books to you. But since Soso was born completely average with zero special body hacks, she immediately crosses that option off her list. Next is the noble family spoon, having a super powerful martial clan backing you with endless money and secret techniques. But since Soso reincarnated as a nameless street orphan, that spoon is totally broken for her too. Which brings us to the third and final option, the master spoon, hanging out with an overpowered master who carries you through every single crisis. The first two spoons were complete busts, but looking at this handsome guy right in front of her, Soso realizes her golden opportunity has finally arrived. He looks wealthy, insanely strong, and completely out of this world. Basically the ultimate cheap mentor every protagonist dreams of hiring. With a sharp snap of his fan, he radiates total confidence. If you were reincarnated into a dangerous fantasy game, would you risk trusting a random mysterious noble to be your master? Or would you stay safe as a beggar? Let me know in the comments below. But then the nobleman narrows his eyes and turns back to the branch leader, contemptuous disgust, sounding pretty annoyed that he asked for a master runner, not a daycare service. He glares down at Chibi Soso, asking if the beggars gang is scamming him by presenting a tiny toddler. The branch leader starts sweating buckets, frantically waving his hands in a total panic. The leader insists he's not lying at all. He swears on his life that while he's known as the fastest beggar in the entire province, this tiny kid right here can actually outrun him. Hearing herself get praised like a legend, Soso's eyes light up with pure pride. Yeah, tell him, she's got speed for days. But the nobleman's green eyes glint with a sharp, mysterious light. He isn't the type to just take a beggar's word for it. He sighs through his fan, remarking that Honam must be completely bankrupt on real martial arts talent if they're relying on a toddler. Gasp! Soso instantly explodes with rage, mocking, "Hey, sorry for being young, you arrogant pretty boy." She drops her head in defeat, floating in a dark cloud of disappointment. Well, so much for the master spoon. Guess she'll have to pack her tiny beggar bowl and hunt for a master out in the wild. Just as she turns to walk away, her nose twitches. Hold up, what is that incredible smell? Drool practically streams from her mouth as her ultra-sensitive kid radar picks up a divine, sugary aroma coming straight from the nobleman's robes. Seeing her drooling like a hungry puppy, the nobleman casually slides his hand into his long silk sleeve. He pulls out a glistening, glossy stick of candied fruit sugar. Soso's jaw hits the floor. He's actually carrying sweet street snacks inside his expensive martial robes. Sugar candy, real glossy sugar candy. In a world where she's been eating stale scraps, this candied stick looks like a holy artifact sent straight from heaven. But before she can reach out, the nobleman suddenly flicks his wrist. He launches the sweet treat across the room like a supersonic missile. Time literally slows down. Soso's eyes lock onto the airborne candy. Fast breath, her brain computing the trajectory in a microsecond. With an explosive burst of footwork, she launches herself through the air like an absolute bullet. Nothing stands between a hungry kid and free sugar. Snap! She catches the stick cleanly right in her mouth mid-flight. The nobleman's eyes go wide in shock. She actually caught a deadly throw using pure instinct. She slams onto the wooden floorboards in a full superhero landing, dust flying everywhere while chomping on her prize. The nobleman starts clapping in genuine awe. Okay, she wasn't lying. This kid is ridiculously fast. Unbothered by her dramatic entrance, Soso sits on the floor happily munching her candy, beaming with pure bliss while the nobleman chuckles in approval. But as she licks the sweet glaze off her fingers, her expression sharpens into total seriousness. That throw wasn't just a friendly game of catch. In that split second, she noticed the trajectory. He didn't toss it toward her. He threw it aimed directly at the branch leader's throat. If it had been a steel dagger instead of sugar candy, the branch leader would be a goner. He was secretly testing her response time to see if her speed was genuine. Man, these high-level martial arts masters are completely unhinged with their entry exams. The branch leader keeps hyping her up, boasting that she's not only lightning fast, but she also forgets yesterday's gossip instantly, making her the perfect secret courier who won't leak any confidential secrets. The nobleman strokes his fan thoughtfully, humming still with hesitation. He worries a tiny kid will just drag him down during his urgent errand. Errand? Soso's ears perk up. What kind of errand are we talking about? The branch leader practically begs on his knees, wiggling his hands together like a salesman desperately trying to close a commission deal before the client walks away. But the moment the nobleman mentions their destination is Dongting Lake, Soso's eyes go wide with shock. Dongting Lake? In the game story she wrote, isn't that where a massive martial arts disaster is about to go down? Imagine realizing that the fantasy web novel you wrote in your past life is actually playing out right in front of your eyes. Soso's jaw drops as she suddenly recognizes the hidden waterfall cave near Dongting Lake, the exact spot where a secret divine elixir is hidden. According to the lore of her original story, a top disciple from the famous Mount Hyeong sect was supposed to be hunted down by the ruthless demonic cult, trailing blood all the way into this very cave where he stumbles upon a life-changing treasure. And what was that legendary treasure, you ask? A radiant, glowing spirit elixir capable of completely reconstructing a destroyed energy center and instantly boosting a cultivator's internal power. Connecting the dots in her sharp little head, Soso realizes that the demonic cult hasn't even revealed itself to the world yet, which means the Mount Hyeong tragedy hasn't happened yet either. Talk about having cheat code knowledge. She tightly clenches her tiny fist as her heart begins to pound wildly. If the canon event hasn't taken place yet, that divine spirit elixir is literally just sitting inside that cave, waiting for anyone smart enough to snatch it first. If she can grab that elixir and form her own internal energy center, she can finally ditch this filthy beggar guild for good and travel the martial world on her own terms. Look at those sparkling blue eyes. She's 100 on a mission now. There's no way she's letting this golden opportunity slip through her fingers. Meanwhile, right behind her, the handsome blue-haired nobleman and the bald branch leader are wrapping up their shady little deal. Flicking his elegant folding fan closed, the mysterious noble nods subtly, confirming that he's officially satisfied with hiring tiny Soso as his fast-running courier. With an effortless motion, he reaches inside his silk robes to produce the promised payment, calling it the standard referral fee for the guild's recommendation. The branch leader practically drools as he reaches out both hands to grab a ridiculously heavy pouch of money, bowing like a greedy villain. But holding her breath, Soso narrows her eyes in utter confusion. Wait a second. That pouch is practically bursting at the seams with heavy silver coins. Seriously? What kind of referral fee for a tiny beggar toddler looks like an entire dragon's hoard? Without waiting another second, the nobleman turns around and casually orders Soso to follow him out. Still stunned by the sketchy bag of cash, Soso stammers out a quick response and trots right behind him. But as she walks toward the exit, she glances back over her shoulder with an ultra-suspicious look on her face. Her toddler instincts are screaming that something is terribly wrong. The bald branch leader vigorously waves his hand, flashing the fake smile of a shady car salesman as he wishes her a safe trip. Yeah, right. Look at that totally untrustworthy grin. The moment she turns her head, the leader clutches the heavy money pouch tightly against his chest, shaking with pure, unadulterated greed. Boom! The reality hits Soso like a freight train. Her eyes widen into massive dark circles as she realizes that wasn't a referral fee at all. Gasping, that greedy old bald head literally sold her off like livestock. Bang! The heavy wooden doors of the beggar hut slam shut as the branch leader lets out a massive sigh of relief, thinking he just pulled off the scam of the century. Wiping the sweat off his face, the old man nervously mutters to himself, wondering if the kid noticed the glare she gave him before leaving. Oh, she definitely noticed, buddy. But rubbing the soft leather pouch against his blushing cheek, he laughs it off. Hey, silk clothes and fancy food are way better than wearing beggar rags anyway, right? Kaboom! The doors explode open as mini Soso appears in the entrance, framed by blinding sunlight like an enraged demon child. The branch leader's jaw drops straight onto the floorboards. Stammering in absolute terror, the old man stutters out a weak question, asking if she forgot something. Oh, she didn't forget anything. She came back to deliver hands. Damn! Soso launches herself through the air like a tiny missile, landing a solid flying fist right into his chest while screaming at him for being a shameless scoundrel. Fuming with pure rage, she roasts him at maximum volume. How could a guild leader sell out his own rookie beggar? No wonder his hairline is receding into another dimension. She tells him to go join the Shaolin Temple once he goes completely bald, though even they probably wouldn't accept a greedy scammer like him. The poor guy clutches his smoking head, crying over his deepest emotional insecurity. Snap! Before he can even recover from the emotional damage, Soso's tiny hands snatch the heavy money pouch right out of his grip. Leaving the screaming branch leader choking on her dust, Soso dashes outside holding her newly acquired fortune, casually announcing to the nobleman that her business is done. As they glide down the dirt road, the nobleman raises an eyebrow and asks if beating up her boss was her final chore. Soso matter-of-factly explains that since she's doing all the hard running, she deserves the paycheck, not that greedy bald fraud. Holding the fat pouch up in the air with a smug grin, she proudly declares that she simply reclaimed what was rightfully hers. Honestly, you've got to respect her street hustle. Smirking subtly behind his fan, the handsome noble admits he respects her sharp initiative, but he warns her that without actual strength, money in the martial world just gets stolen right back. Soso angrily shouts back that nobody is taking her loot, while the branch leader flails helplessly in the background. System pop-up, locked in, money pouch officially added to inventory. Swearing in her heart, Soso vows to never step foot inside that trashy beggar branch ever again. Good riddance to bad boss management. Even though she's currently traveling alongside this insanely wealthy nobleman to get to Dongting Lake, the second she gets her hands on that hidden spirit elixir inside the cave, she's ditching everyone and making a run for it. Ditching a party mid-quest? Classic protagonist move. And so, after sprinting across provinces for nearly half a day without taking a single breather, the duo finally reaches the magnificent cliffs overlooking Dongting Lake just as the sky blazes into a breathtaking golden sunset. Gazing out at the horizon, the nobleman remarks that he honestly expected a toddler to slow him down. Whew, but admits it's a pleasant surprise that they made it before nightfall. Soso wipes the sweat off her dusty cheeks, pouting fiercely as she reminds him that this kid has an actual name, and he definitely already knows it. But behind her cute pouting face, Soso's inner thoughts are swirling with genuine shock. During their marathon run, she was literally pushing her tiny toddler legs to their absolute breaking point just to keep up with his pace. Meanwhile, the nobleman wasn't even running. He was practically gliding through the air like a phantom. He crossed rushing rivers and rugged terrain without kicking up a single speck of dirt or leaving a footprint. Hopping lightly across stepping stones like a graceful sparrow, his movement speed was completely insane. Landing on the soil with absolute silence, he didn't even drop a single bead of sweat or rustle his silk robes. Surrounded by golden rays and floating blossoms, the artist went full divine mode on this panel. Seriously, this man isn't just fast, he's operating on a high-tier cultivation realm. Soso stands there utterly mesmerized. For the first time in her life, she witnessed a genuine master of lightness footwork who makes her natural speed look like child's play. Crossing his arms with an amused smirk, the nobleman admits he thought the beggars were bluffing, asking if she's secretly trained in high-level martial arts. Soso quickly shakes her head, claiming she's never learned a single stance. Suddenly, the temperature plummets. Leaning down until his glowing green eyes lock onto hers, a terrifying shadowy pressure surrounds him as he whispers, "Even though you're pretending to be a fool?" Cold sweat drenches Soso. Her heart nearly leaps out of her chest as she realizes this guy's murderous intuition picked up on her sharp intellect. Scrambling to play it off like an innocent toddler, Soso loudly protests that she's not dumb. In fact, she's super smart and even possesses an ultimate secret skill. Curious, the nobleman asks what kind of secret skill a beggar kid could possibly have. With absolute pride, Soso pulls out a live flea between her fingernails, declaring her master technique is flea attacks. The nobleman lets out a tired sigh, muttering that she really is just a massive fool. What do you guys think? Did she successfully fool him? Or is this deadly noble playing along with her act? Drop your theories in the comments below. Shaking his head at her flea demonstration, the nobleman turns around with a disappointed sigh, casually calling off his terrifying aura and telling her this is no fun. Soso clutches her chest in relief, realizing he was literally just testing her reaction. Looking out over the golden horizon, he decides that before night falls, they should find a nice inn. Though looking down at her filthy beggar rags, he realizes getting her a fresh change of clothes comes first. Soso stares down at her dirt-covered toddler feet in absolute disbelief. Wait, is this fancy nobleman actually offering her a full makeover? Trotting right behind him as they head toward the local market, Soso double-checks if he's paying for everything. The nobleman snorts, asking if she honestly thought he'd force a penniless beggar kid to empty her tiny pockets. Cut to a few hours later inside a luxurious inn room, and tiny Soso is standing there bathed in pure elegance. Dressed in brand new silk robes and clutching her clean clothes bundle, she tries to recall the last time she took a proper bath. Look at those sparkling blue eyes and glowing rosy cheeks. Cleaned up and glowing like a little fairy princess, Soso can barely recognize her own reflection. Hugging her fresh outfit, her mind reels in total confusion. Not only did this guy buy her expensive silk clothes, but he also treated her to an absolute feast of a meal. On top of all that, he's even sharing his high-end in-room with her instead of toting her out to sleep in the dirt like most snobbish martial artists would. Soso launches herself onto the massive soft mattress with a happy faceplant. She admits to herself that after seeing his terrifying shadowy aura earlier, she totally wrote him off as a villain. Squishing her cheek into the fluffy pillow, she lets out a satisfied chuckle, thinking that maybe this rich aristocrat isn't such a bad guy after all. Suddenly, a shadow towers over her bed asking what's so awesome. Soso lets out a sharp gasp as her eyes snap open to see the nobleman standing right there, casually drying his wet hair with a towel. Scrambling upright in a panic, Soso stammers out a weak lie, claiming she was just expressing her deepest admiration for his incredible hospitality. Wiping his long black hair, the nobleman just lets out a quiet hum, looking completely unbothered by her dramatic toddler excuse. Leaving his damp towel on the edge of the bed, he glides over toward the open circular window to gaze out into the serene moonlit night. Bro, check out the artist's lighting choice in this panel. Basking in the blue moonlight with floating flower petals, this man looks less like a courier client and more like a heavenly immortal warrior. Soso stares at his side profile, completely mesmerized, thinking that with an aura like that, there's no way he's just some nameless background NPC in this game world. Calling out to him softly, Soso decides it's time to gather some critical intel. Clasping her tiny hands together, she asks for his name, desperately trying to search her memories to see if he's an important canon character. But turning around with a teasing smirk, the nobleman laughs it off, asking why a toddler messenger needs to know his identity. Soso's inner head explodes in frustration, mocking tone. Would it kill him to give a straight answer? Cross-legged and pouting with puffed cheeks, Soso glares at him while he chuckles effortlessly behind his crossed arms, asking if she's got a problem. Soso grumbles out a reluctant no, backing down immediately. Turning his back to pull up his inner robes, he casually tells her to get some sleep since tomorrow's schedule is going to be packed. Soso huffs under her breath, swearing to keep her own secrets if he's going to play hard to get. Pulling the soft duvet up to her chest, Soso hesitantly speaks up again, whispering, asking what kind of errand he's actually planning to make her do tomorrow. Her blue eyes wide with curiosity, she waits for his response, unaware of the trap she just walked into. Instantly, the room drops to sub-zero, towering over her with a terrifying shadow covering his face and a demonic grin. He whispers that he's going to force her to do something so monstrously dangerous, she'll end up crying for her life. Glowing with dark purple energy, he smirks villainously, claiming that's the real reason he scrubbed her clean and dressed her up so nicely beforehand. Soso's face turns dead pale as cold sweat drips down her neck. Shaken like a leaf in a hurricane, trembling, tiny chibi Soso stammers out a whimpering question, gasp asking what horrific monster task awaits her. Seeing her shake in absolute terror, the nobleman's evil facade breaks in less than 2 seconds. He bursts into a fit of laughter, clutching his side as he cackles at how easily she fell for his supervillain impression. Soso stands there frozen in utter disbelief. Fuming with comic rage, Soso's face turns beet red as veins pop on her head. Seriously? He got her again? If this guy thinks he can just bully a reincarnated protagonist, he's got another thing coming. Wiping a tear of joy from his eye, the nobleman tries to compose himself, while Soso glares holes straight through his soul. Instantly switching back to her master-level actor mode, Soso drops face first onto the bed in a dramatic kowtow bow, loudly shouting her endless thanks. Looking up with pure adoration in her eyes, she praises his generosity, claiming that even as a young kid, she knows nobody treats a simple courier this nicely, which must mean he trusts her capabilities completely. The nobleman blinks in surprise, caught off guard by her sudden praise. Beaming a blindingly bright smile surrounded by sparkling stars, Soso proudly promises to run her absolute fastest on tomorrow's quest. Snuggling under her blanket, she cheerfully announces that she's officially going to sleep. Turning his head back toward the window, the nobleman gazes at her with a soft, thoughtful expression. Out of nowhere, his calm voice echoes through the quiet room. It's Danwi. Soso's head pops out from under the sheet in pure surprise. Sitting up quickly, she asks if she's allowed to address him by his real name, and Danwi gently nods in agreement. Flashing a ridiculously handsome smirk, he adds that she can even address him as the great hero Danwi if she wants. Soso plays right along, beaming a super cute toddler smile as she enthusiastically shouts out his requested title. But the moment she ducked back beneath her blanket, her smile completely vanished. Searching her deep lore knowledge of the novel, she realizes the name Danhui doesn't match any major hero or villain in the entire storyline. A devious, villainous grin spreads across her face. Hook, line, and sinker. Her cute, innocent act worked like an absolute charm. Glancing over at Danhui sitting peacefully by the window, Soso congratulates herself on lowering his guard. He thinks he bought a loyal little courier, but he has zero idea she's planning to ditch him the second she gets her hands on that spirit elixir. Pulling the sheet tight, she decides all she has to do now is wait for the great hero to fall fast asleep before making her grand escape. 1 hour passes, then 2. Soso peeks over her blanket with dark circles under her eyes, staring at Danhui, who is still sitting wide awake on his bed. Why on earth isn't this man sleeping? Soso's eyelids feel heavier than lead. A full double hour has passed, and her tiny toddler body is screaming for rest. Desperate to stay awake, Soso literally pinches her own thigh with all her strength. She's pushing her physical limits to the absolute brink, silently praying for him to just lie down already. Suddenly, the sound of rustling bedding fills the room. Gasp! Soso's eyes light up with hope. Is the great hero finally going to sleep? Glancing toward the window, Danhui quietly murmurs to himself in the dark, wondering why his master was so obsessed with finding a fast runner specifically from the beggars' gang. Holding her breath beneath her blanket, Soso listens closely as Danhui whispers that every fated encounter relies on destiny anyway, so they'll just have to see how tomorrow unfolds. Cut to a few moments later, and Mini Soso is tiptoeing barefoot across the outer wooden balcony, holding her shoes. Sneaking past a high-level martial artist was pure nightmare fuel, and she even had to leave her fancy new silk clothes behind to avoid making noise. Rewinding back a few minutes, Soso had cleverness on her side. She knew that if Danhui woke up while she was moving around, she could just pretend she was heading to the latrine. Slipping her shoes on as her feet hit the ground, Soso prepares to sprint into the night, but something suddenly stops her right in her tracks. Is Danhui waiting for her outside, or did she run straight into another trap? Drop your wild theories down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for the next episode. Picture sneaking out under the cover of darkness, only to realize the mysterious nobleman who hired you was plotting something suspicious all along. Soso sprints across the moonlit rooftops, her mind racing as she tries to decipher Danhui's cryptic words from earlier. Gliding over the serene, shimmering waters of Dongting Lake, the peaceful night scenery completely contrasts the chaotic conspiracy unraveling in her head. Vaulting through the air with effortless agility, tiny Soso uses the night shadows to cover her tracks as she makes a beeline toward her secret destination. She narrows her sparkling blue eyes, replaying his words in her mind over and over again. Why would great hero Danhui mention needing a fast runner specifically from the beggars' gang? Leaping across the rugged mountain terrain, Soso ponders if he came looking for her on purpose or if it was all just a wild coincidence. Man, well, logic dictates there are zero coincidences when handsome noblemen show up out of nowhere. Stepping toward the rocky cliffs, she wonders if Danhui's mysterious master possessed inside knowledge about her true identity. Landing gracefully on a jagged peak, Soso rubs her chin in deep thought. She only joined the beggars' gang a short while ago, so how could anyone have predicted her exact location? Scanning the misty shoreline down below, she suddenly spots a subtle landmark through the dense foliage. Right at the edge of the dark lake waters, a hidden cavern mouth emerges from the shadows. Soso's face lights up. She actually found it! Clapping her hands to her glowing rosy cheeks, Cheapy Soso lets out a delighted cheer. Finding the jackpot on her very first night in town, talk about protagonist luck popping off early. Dongting Lake is notorious for having dozens of labyrinthine caves, making it virtually impossible for an ordinary martial artist to locate the true hidden treasure without a precise map. Clambering up the rocky entrance, Soso smirks to herself. Since she was one of the original novel creators, she knows every secret map location by heart. First order of business, claim that legendary spirit elixir. Suddenly, a sharp, searing pain strikes her chest like a lightning bolt. Soso gasps in agony, grabbing her shirt as glowing purple veins flare across her skin. Collapsing onto her knees against the hard rock, tiny Soso whimpers in pain, her chest burning as if it's being ripped apart from the inside. Leaning her head back against the cliff face, she pants heavily, completely exhausted as she tries to regulate her breathing. Holding up her trembling hands, she stares in shock as one palm glows with scalding heat while the other freezes ice cold. It feels like two destructive, opposing martial energies are violently clashing inside her meridian channels at the exact same time. Looking deep inside her internal energy center, the conflicting dual forces of extreme ice and scorching flame swirl together in a dangerous vortex. So grimaces. Realizing this internal flare-up always triggers whenever she pushes her tiny toddler body to sprint at maximum speed for too long. Shaken off the lingering pain, she tries to reassure herself with a nervous smile. Once she rescues her master, she'll get him to diagnose her internal meridians. Although, what if it's actually some incurable terminal illness? Please consult a healthcare professional. This is not medical advice or diagnosis. Talk to a provider about care concerns. Peeking cautiously around the cavern pillar, Soso decides to put her health anxieties on hold until the prize is secured. Stepping inside the grand subterranean chamber, she gazes in awe at the glowing crystal pool and the stone altar standing right in the center. Right on top of the altar rests an ancient sealed wooden trunk bathed in a mysterious blue luminescence. Soso smiles in relief. She made it to the exact right spot. But looking down at the wide water channel surrounding the altar, Soso pauses. How on earth is a toddler supposed to cross this deep pool? The underground lake is crystal clear, but the sheer depth makes swimming completely out of the question for someone her size. Crouching near the water's edge, she notices a sequence of small, protruding rocks stepping across the surface. Can her tiny legs actually execute those massive leaps? She remembers watching great hero Danwi glide effortlessly across the ground using high-level lightness techniques earlier. Soso taps her chin in realization. Wait a minute. She might not possess true martial chi to run on water, but she can definitely copy the physical footwork mechanics of a high-level master. Recalling Danwi's precise body balance and weight distribution down to the smallest detail, Soso launches herself into the air with total confidence, soaring gracefully over the glowing blue water. Channeling the mental image of Danwi's phantom footwork guiding her, she lightly taps her toes onto the first slippery rock surface. Whoa, hold on! Gasp, tiny chibi Soso flails her arms around like a windmill, trying not to lose her balance and splash into the icy water. Rapidly regaining her footing, she bounds across the remaining stepping stones like a seasoned martial arts master. Stick the landing! Soso touches down on the stone altar platform with absolute perfection. Bursting into an adorable celebratory victory dance, Chibi Soso cheers out loud. Sure, it was a little clumsy in the middle, but she nailed a high-level movement technique on her very first attempt. Posing smugly with her cheeks in her hands, she puffed up her chest in self-admiration. Is she secretly a martial arts prodigy trapped in a toddler's body? Turning toward the treasure box, Soso's eyes sparkle. Once she ingests the spirit elixir and forms her internal energy core, nobody will be able to push her around. But as she steps forward, a thick, unnatural fog suddenly rolls across the stone altar. Soso pauses in confusion. Why did the mist get so heavy out of nowhere? Through the swirling white mist, a shadowy silhouette is already standing over the open treasure chest, casually pulling a velvet pouch from his robes. Soso stops dead in her tracks. Wait, is someone else already here? As the fog clears, the mysterious intruder turns around, revealing the striking face and green eyes of great hero Danwi. Soso's jaw drops to the absolute floor. Her eyes pop wide open in total unadulterated shock. Pointing her finger in complete disbelief, Soso stammers out his name. Danwi blinks back in equal shock, staring down at the tiny toddler standing in his secret cave. Danwi's finger shakes hysterically as he points back at her, his usual suave composure completely shattered. Both of them start screaming at the top of their lungs simultaneously. Why are you here? I was going to ask you the exact same thing. Shouldn't you be fast asleep in the inn room? I was about to say that to you. An agonizingly awkward silence falls over the cavern as the two of them just stare at each other, which means Soso's internal head explodes in comic realization. This grown-up martial arts hero sneaked out through the window at night just like she did. Danwi buries his face in his hands, completely mortified that he got caught red-handed sneaking around by a literal toddler beggar. Check out his face, he looks like he wants the earth to swallow him whole. Soso squints suspiciously. How did Danwi even know about this ultra-secret hidden cavern? And how did he manage to slip past her sensory check back at the inn? Looking over his shoulder at the open trunk, a radiant glowing white pearl sits atop the velvet lining. Soso's eyes widen. That's the legendary spirit elixir. If you were in Soso's shoes right now, would you try to steal the elixir right up from under his nose? Or negotiate a split deal? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Imagine sneaking into an ancient hidden cavern, expecting to claim a legendary power-up, only to find a mysterious nobleman already standing over the prize. Soso narrows her sparkling blue eyes in total disbelief. Is great hero Danwi actually here to snatch the spirit elixir for himself? But wait, looking closer at his hands? Sharp gasp. He wasn't stealing the glowing pearl at all. He was actually pulling it out of his velvet pouch and carefully placing it inside the wooden chest. Soso's eyes widen in absolute shock. If he's putting the elixir into the box instead of taking it, that means this entire treasure hunt was staged from the very beginning. In the original web novel, a wounded disciple from the Mount Hyeong Sect was supposed to stumble into this exact cave years later to find this legendary treasure, which means Danhui knew the future plot details beforehand. A chilling shiver runs down Soso's tiny spine. Chuckle. Check out her terrified chibi face. She realizes she just stumbled into a conspiracy way bigger than her toddler brain can handle. Tapping his finger on the wooden box, Danwi gives her an awkward glance. Soso sweats profusely, realizing he went through all this effort to fake a sleeping presence at the inn just to pull off this secret errand. Danwi rubs the back of his neck with a guilty smile, completely embarrassed that he hid his presence only to get caught red-handed by a 4-year-old beggar. As Danwi steps forward, Soso's mind spins with wild theories. In this martial arts world, there are only orthodox sects, unorthodox factions, and the demonic cult. But what if there's a fourth secret faction pulling strings behind the scenes? A strange, mystical pressure begins floating through the damp subterranean air. Soso's hair flutters as she senses a terrifyingly powerful entity watching them from above. Grasping her throat nervously, Soso's instincts scream that someone is staring right at her. His gaze feels overwhelmingly sharp, not like an ordinary martial artist at all. Reflected in her sparkling blue eyes, a shadowy silhouette wearing a veiled bamboo hat floats high above. Soso realizes setting up a grand destiny like this isn't something Danwi could do alone, which means he has a supreme boss. Soso grimaces to herself. Even though she's a reincarnated author, getting caught by a toddler while planting secret loot is top-tier amateur hour. Danwi's way too sloppy to be the mastermind. How interesting! A calm, majestic voice echoes through the cavern ceiling. Danwi and Soso both freeze as the mysterious hidden figure slowly steps out from the high rock ledge. Without missing a beat, great hero Danwi immediately drops to his knees and bows with deep reverence, calling out, "Master!" Soso's jaw hits the floor. Wait, this guy is his master? Soso forces a super awkward, trembling smile as cold sweat trickles down her cheek. She tries to play it cool, but inside she's panicking hard. Descending from above in pristine white and sky blue silk robes, the Grandmaster looks like a literal immortal deity descended from the heavens. Soso looks up in pure awe. Now this is what a secret shadow leader is supposed to look like. Dressed in flawless white robes with a delicate veiled hat, his aura is pure royalty. Standing gracefully beside the stone altar, the veiled master looks down at the tiny intruder. Soso can't believe the ultimate puppet master actually showed up in person. Soso tilts her head in total confusion. She expected Danwi's master to be a wrinkled, 200-year-old ancient elder. But why does his figure look so remarkably young? Scanning his elegant build through the translucent veil, Soso notes that his posture and smooth voice belong to someone in their absolute prime. Even weirder, Soso can't detect a single trace of factional chi on him. He doesn't radiate orthodox righteous energy, unorthodox darkness, or demonic cult aura. Usually, the older and stronger a martial master gets, the more distinct their faction's signature style becomes. Is this guy really the true mastermind of the entire world? Unable to contain her intense curiosity any longer, Chibi Soso points her tiny finger and bluntly yells out, "Who on earth are you?" The master softly lets out a gentle chuckle under his veil. He remarks that it's pretty rude for a tiny toddler to demand answers before introducing herself first. Hearing his smooth, crystal-clear voice up close, Soso's eyes pop into giant white circles. Man, his voice is so ridiculously handsome, there is zero chance he's an old man. Suddenly, the atmosphere turns suffocatingly heavy. The master's aura flares with terrifying killing intent, as he warns that while he's usually nice to kids, anyone who discovers his secret location might be a spy. Slowly raising his open palm, he threatens to eliminate her on the spot if she can't give a valid explanation. Soso instantly drops to the floor, ducking her head in absolute terror. A blood-red aura engulfs the cavern as the master looms over her like a grim reaper. Gasp! Soso's life flashes before her eyes as the sheer pressure crushes her tiny body. Soso whimpers in fear, her heart hammering against her ribs. She is 100% convinced this guy will vaporize her into dust if she doesn't think of something fast. Desperately choking back her terror, Soso stammers out her name. I am Soke. The master pauses mid-strike, leaning down slightly under his veil. And he prompts coldly, waiting for the rest of her story. Without a second thought, Soso forcefully slams her forehead into the hard stone floor in the most dramatic full-body kowtow in martial arts history. Instantly switching from total terror to sparkling puppy dog eyes, Chibi Soso shouts at the top of her lungs, "Please accept me as your disciple!" An agonizingly quiet breeze blows through the cavern as the master stands completely frozen in shock. Soso remains pinned to the floor in her desperate bow. Look at her smug little face! Soso beams with pride over her big brain play. If she secures this god-tier grandmaster as her personal bodyguard, nobody in the martial world can ever touch her. Lifting the edge of his veiled hat with one finger, the master stares down at the shameless toddler kneeling before him. The master sighs softly, bluntly stating that this kid is a total idiot. Danny deadpans right beside him, agreeing 100. Soso's chibi soul explodes in comic offense right after, screaming, "Hey, who are you calling a fool?" Pouting adorably, Soso rubs her bruised forehead with a salty expression. Fine, so maybe her big play was a bit shameless, but survival comes first. A glowing blue transition panel appears as Soso narrates back from the present, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was her ridiculously chaotic first encounter with her future master. Rewinding back to that moment in the cave, the master looks down at her kneeling form and asks her to explain how a tiny beggar managed to wander into a locked subterranean cavern. Chibi Soso sweats profusely, fidgeting with her hands as she scrambles to invent a believable lie. Well, you see? Flashbacking to the moonlit inn window, Soso puts on her best innocent child voice. I was just walking to the outhouse, but the moonlight was so pretty I felt like sprinting. So I ran super fast, spotted a cave, and ended up here. The master squints through his veil, repeating her ridiculous story with utter disbelief. So you accidentally sprinted miles into a hidden mountain cave while looking for the bathroom? Soso nods frantically with a guilty smile. Yeah, even she knows that excuse sounds like complete garbage. But then Soso's internal writer brain kicks in. In classic wuxia novel tropes, every legendary protagonist finds their ultimate power-up through absurd, unbelievable coincidences, like picking herbs or taking a midnight stroll. Danwy crosses his arms in annoyance, scoffing at her blatant lie. Soso glares back. Hey, it sounds ridiculous, but novel logic never lies. Raising his slender hand, the master silences Danwy with a gentle gesture, making the high-level hero bow back respectfully. Turning back to Soso, the master calmly smiles under his veil. It seems you were destined by fate to become the rightful owner of this spirit elixir. Soso's jaw drops. Wait, he actually fell for it? Reaching his long fingers toward the stone altar, the master begins explaining the original grand scheme. He calculated that in 3 or 4 years, when the demonic cult emerges, a heroic young disciple from Mount Hyeong was supposed to hide in this exact cave after fighting an old devil, ingest the spirit elixir, and save the world. But now that tiny Soso ruined the script. Fate itself has officially been rewritten. Imagine pulling off the ultimate high IQ strategy, whisper only for the mysterious grandmaster to see right through your game. Glancing down from beneath his veil, the master giggles, softly mumbles that even he can be wrong sometimes, noting that this secret information is something only a game developer or author could possibly know in advance. Soso's face turns completely pale as cold sweat drips down her cheek. Did he really just connect the dots and realize she's an otherworldly reincarnated author? Tapping his chin through the silk veil, the master squints in total confusion. He genuinely can't comprehend how a tiny 4-year-old beggar could know every hidden plot detail with such pinpoint accuracy. But instead of interrogating her, the master casually turns around, instructing Danwy that it's time for them to head back. Danwy bows respectfully while Chibi Soso blinks in total disbelief. Huh? Wait, they're just walking away? Soso's jaw drops so low it practically touches the subterranean cavern floor. Is this guy seriously ignoring her ultimate disciple proposal and leaving without giving a single answer? But as Soso turns her head, she notices the glowing blue wooden chest containing the legendary spirit elixir sitting completely abandoned on the stone platform. Snatching the box into her tiny arms, Soso holds it high above her head and shouts for them to stop. "Hey, you're leaving the most sought-after treasure in the martial world behind." Without even turning his head, the master calmly replies that the elixir belongs to her now. Whether she swallows it or gives it away to a stranger, it's all part of heaven's divine plan. He then drops the ultimate rejection, explaining that he isn't some honorable saint, so she should find a proper sect while she's young, finishing off with the classic, "If fate allows, we'll meet again." Talk about a polite brush-off. But Soso isn't letting her ultimate bodyguard slip away that easily. Sprinting through the cavern's shallow water with all her tiny strength, she screams for him to wait up. With tears streaming down her face and her lungs burning, Soso screams out the truth. She doesn't give a single dime about spirit elixirs or finding another fancy sect. "I want to serve a strong master." Her voice echoes across the subterranean chamber. The veiled Grand Master pauses in midair for a split second, but keeps on gliding. Looking down the massive cavern passage, Soso's eyes pop in panic. These two martial arts monsters are moving so fast they're already tiny dots near the exit. Flashing back to their midair movement, the master lightheartedly scolds Danwi for bringing a toddler when he specifically asked for the fastest beggar to test the lightness technique needed for the elixir. Danwi quickly defends his honor, explaining that Soso met every single requirement. She was officially verified as the fastest beggar in the entire Honam region. Listening to Danwi's excuse, the master nods his head under his hat with a gentle Glancing back over his shoulder through his veil, he looks back at the distant trail behind them. Far back in the moonlit forest, tiny chibi Soso is running on foot like a madman trying to keep up with two flying grandmasters. Seriously, the visual of a toddler chasing flying deities is peak comedy. Lungs burning and face turning bright red, Soso gasps for breath as she keeps sprinting, screaming for them to take her with them. Watching her struggle from above, Danwi sweat drops and whispers to Master that the kid is pushing herself way past her physical limits. But instead of stopping, the duo accelerates through the tree canopy. Soso gasps as she realizes the gap between them is even growing wider. Suddenly, a surge of raw chi flares violently inside Soso's chest. Gasp, tears stream from her eyes as her adult reincarnation soul collides with her fragile 4-year-old body. Stumbling onto the dirt path, Soso clutches her burning chest in agony. Whimper. Oh, not right now. Her internal organs feel like they're being cooked alive. Choking back the excruciating pain, Soso forces her tiny feet to keep moving. She knows that if she fails to secure this Grandmaster right here, her survival rate in this heartless world drops to 0. Unleashing a brilliant burst of pink and blue aura, Soso overclocks her body beyond all human limits, shooting forward like a runaway rocket. In her mind, she knows the martial world is a ruthless dog-eat-dog nightmare. Without a supreme powerhouse covering her back, a beggar like her won't survive a week. But no matter how fast her tiny legs pump, the distance between them isn't shrinking at all. Talk about the cruel reality of low-level stats versus high-level cultivation monsters. Reaching out her glowing hand into the empty night air, Soso desperately shouts that he was looking for the fastest beggar in the sect. And she is right here. Tears streaming down her cheeks, Soso pleads with everything she has, promising that she will work harder than anyone else if he just gives her a chance. Channeling every single drop of chi remaining in her tiny soul, Soso launches herself into the air with one final desperate leap. As her consciousness fades into total darkness, Soso falls right into the arms of the veiled master. White silk robes flutter like clouds as he catches her frail body. Looking down at the unconscious toddler in his lap, the master lets out a soft, defeated sigh. Calling her a total fool, he can't help but show a soft spot for her reckless determination. Underneath his bamboo veil, his sharp, handsome eyes soften with genuine concern as he gazes at her exhausted face. Barely conscious in his arms, Soso lets out a weak little smirk. Her big brain gamble to play the pity card actually worked like an absolute charm. Resting peacefully on his lap amidst glowing blue flowers, Soso passes out with total satisfaction. Success! She officially secured her god-tier Grandmaster. Suddenly, Soso's sparkling blue eyes snap open. Sitting up instantly in a blind panic, Chibi Soso throws her hands up in self-defense, screaming at the top of her lungs. Blinking in confusion, Soso looks around to find herself lying on a soft, comfortable bed inside a warm, beautifully decorated wooden room. Smelling the rich aroma of medicinal herbs and seeing acupuncture scrolls on the wall, she realizes she's inside a high-end medical hall. Chibi Soso grabs her head in total freak-out mode. Did those two jerks seriously just dump her at a random clinic and run off while she was knocked out? Suddenly, a tall shadow steps into the room. Carrying a wooden tray filled with medicine bottles, a voice calmly announces that she's finally awake. Soso's jaw drops as she stares up at the mysterious visitor. Standing before her in sleek, dark robes is great hero Danwi himself. Holding remedies on a tray, he casually reveals that she's been completely unconscious for 2 full days. Sitting right beside her on the bed, Danwi leans in with a sharp, piercing stare, bluntly asking if she was just pretending to be a total fool back at the cavern. Soso's heart skips a beat. Sweat trickles down her neck as her author brain frantically calculates whether she should confess or double down on her stupid toddler routine. Instantly putting on her best derpy face, Chibi Soso deadpans that there's zero benefit in a beggar showing off too much intelligence. Danwi softly chuckles, admitting that's pretty true. Aggressively flicking her fingers, Soso proudly insists that her legendary flea attack is her true ultimate technique. Danwi waves his hand in complete exhaustion. Never mind, he shouldn't have asked. Leaning back, Danwi's eyes narrow as he presses her further. He asks if her story about wandering out of the inn just because the moonlight was pretty was also complete garbage. Putting on her most innocent puppy dog eyes, Soso sticks to her lie, claiming the moonlight was just so pretty she had to follow it. Mocking tone. Man, watching a 4-year-old lie straight to a top-tier martial hero's face with a straight face is hilarious. Danwi rubs his chin with a deeply suspicious expression, clearly not believing a single word coming out of her mouth. Now, let me ask you guys in the comments, do you think Soso's crazy high-risk gamble to force a grandmaster into adopting her was total genius or pure suicidal madness? Drop your thoughts below. Imagine pulling off the ultimate bluff to get adopted by a legendary grandmaster, only to realize his sect is playing a game way bigger than the entire martial world. As Danwi relaxes on the wooden bench, he calmly sighs that there's no way a 4-year-old beggar could possibly comprehend what their organization is truly doing behind the scenes. Soso leans forward with sparkling curiosity, demanding to know why 2 god-tier martial monsters are running around acting like shadowy puppeteers in the Jang-Hu. Crossing his arms with an enigmatic smile, Danwi explains that their sanctuary isn't like the Beggar's Gang or any typical orthodox or unorthodox sect. In fact, their enigmatic master walks a path completely outside the rules of the martial world. Soso tilts her head in total bewilderment, asking what kind of crazy path a grandmaster could possibly walk if he rejects both light and dark factions. With a subtle smirk, Danwi reveals that Master operates entirely from the shadows, silently overseeing the orthodox sects, unorthodox factions, and even the terrifying demonic cult to prevent unnecessary massacres. Soso's inner author brain completely short-circuits. Is an actual game character seriously pulling the strings of the entire world from behind the curtain? Twirling a lock of hair, Danwi softly chuckles as he explains that Master possesses the divine will of an immortal. Since changing the destiny of the world is too heavy for one man, he adopted tragic strays abandoned by the Jang-Hu, like Danwi himself, to help fulfill his grand dream. Flashback visuals show the legendary Hermit of the Azure Robe standing tall against the world map. Danwi adds that Master possesses absolute omniscience, knowing the past, present, and future of every single faction in existence. Looking back at Soso with absolute devotion in his eyes, Danwi proudly declares that his master is undeniably the greatest martial artist of all time. Soso slams her tiny hands onto the bench with starry eyes, totally mind-blown by the absurd scale of this shadowy shadow government sect. Raising 2 fingers with a sudden, dangerous smirk, Danwi warns her that if she wants to back out and run away, right now is her final chance. Tapping his fingers lightly against Soso's forehead, casually offers to use mind-wiping sorcery to erase all her memories and return her back to her normal daily life. Soso lowers her head as a dark shadow falls over her face. Go back to being a starving, dirt-poor beggar toddler? Why in the world would she ever give up a golden ticket like this? Snapping back with pure excitement, Soso clenches her tiny fist and screams that what they're doing is the coolest thing she's ever heard in her life. Chibi Soso goes on a hyperactive babbling spree, gushing about how awesome it is to rule the world from the shadows and promising to work hard as Danwi's errand boy. Poor Danwi sweat drops in complete mental exhaustion. Coughing awkwardly, Danwi scratches his cheek and cuts off her hyper rant. Gently tapping Soso's cute nose, Danwi flashes a dazzling warm smile and tells her that from now on, she should address him as senior brother. Antennae hairs literally sprout from Soso's head as she squeals with joy, bowing hyperactively to her brand new gorgeous senior brother Danwi. The story cuts to the next morning. Sunlight washes over the serene mountain estate as cute horned rabbits graze in the lush grass, while a distant temple bell chimes. Waking up with a big stretch, Chibi Soso stumbles outside in a stylish new dress. Breathe out, sniffing the morning air as a mouth-watering aroma catches her attention. Sliding open the wooden kitchen door, Soso peeks her head inside and gasps as a voice welcomes her awake. Standing inside the steamy kitchen is a handsome dark-haired man wearing a pristine white apron over his martial robes. Soso cheerfully greets him, and the cook remarks how energetic she is bright and early. Flexing her tiny noodle arms, Chibi Soso marches in and offers to do all the heavy lifting in the kitchen, proudly boasting about her raw strength. Turning his head with a calm, stoic gaze, the handsome cook politely asks for her name. Chopping vegetables with lightning speed, the cook listens as Soso proudly introduces herself as So-Gae. He nods, finally realizing why she was hanging around the beggars gang. Soso looks up curiously as the cook pauses his cleaver, politely asking what title she should use to address him. Pausing his prep work, the stoic chef looks back in mild surprise, asking how she already figured out that he was also a disciple of the Hermit of the Azure Robe. Soso smirks smartly, pointing out how polite senior brother Danwi acted around him and how his medical diagnostic energy felt identical to Master's internal chi. The chef calmly confirms that he indeed learned his medical arts directly from their master. Soso gasps in victory, super proud of her genius deductive author instincts. Softening his expression with a gentle smile, the chef officially introduces himself as Hyeong-ak. Hyeong-ak explains that among all the current active disciples, he has been training under Master the longest. Soso peeks over the wooden counter, happily telling him he can speak casually with his new youngest junior brother. Hyeong-ak continues scooping steaming soup with a wooden spoon, amusedly noting that he actually prefers speaking formally. Serving up a delicious bowl, Hyeong-ak reveals that speaking respectfully to everyone, even his youngest junior brothers, is a core part of his personal mental cultivation. Soso deadpans in her mind that this guy's definitely an eccentric weirdo. Fidgeting her fingers nervously, Chibi Soso stands by the counter with big, expectant puppy dog eyes. Suddenly, Hyeong-ak hands her a wooden tray table loaded with gourmet dishes. Soso stumbles slightly under the weight, trying her best not to drop the food. Hyeong-ak reminds her that Master instructed her to greet all of her senior brothers. Pointing outside toward a breathtaking, isolated pavilion sitting high atop a steep mountain cliff, Hyeong-ak explains that their last senior brother rarely leaves his room, so delivering his breakfast is the perfect opportunity to introduce herself. Soso's inner author brain lights up. Hyeong-ak basically gave her a free pass and map marker to meet her final secret senior brother. Holding the tray tightly, Soso dashes out the door with a bright smile, shouting that she'll be right back. Cut to Soso struggling for her absolute life. Huffing and puffing with a bright red face, she drags her tiny toddler legs up hundreds of brutal stone cliff stairs, cursing the architect who built this place. Finally reaching the secluded pavilion door, Soso knocks timidly with her tiny knuckles, asking if anyone is inside. Silence! Complete dead silence behind the heavy wooden door. Standing outside, Soso begins frantically calculating in her head. Eldest brother Hyeong-ak is super reliable, Danwi is gorgeous, so maybe this last senior brother is another ultra-handsome top-tier visual god? The wooden door slowly swings open, revealing a messy, dark-haired young guy in green robes glaring down with tired, dark eyes. "What?" he mumbles. Soso's jaw drops. She definitely wasn't expecting her final senior brother to look like some edgy, unwashed teenager. Snapping back into customer service toddler mode, Soso holds the heavy food tray high above her head with a beaming smile, brightly announcing that she brought him fresh breakfast. Glaring down at her with pure annoyance, the edgy teen groans about how annoying kids are. But before he can finish rejecting her, Soso points over her shoulder at that massive bronze bell in the courtyard, brightly asking if he was the one who rang the morning bell. Suddenly, the teen aggressively snatches the tray out of her hands, violently shouting, "Ugh, you ugly thing!" straight into her face. Soso stands frozen in total shock with blank white eye sockets. Now, let me ask you guys, did this edgy new senior brother just cross the line? Or is Soso about to teach him to pick on someone his own size? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Imagine trying to talk a hot-tempered martial artist out of a full-blown argument. Chibi Soso violently shakes her head, muttering that nobody should ever let themselves get swayed by a spoiled toddler's dramatic temper tantrum. Turning on her maximum customer service charm, Soso flashes the brightest, most adorable smile, bowing deeply as she cheerfully introduces herself as Soge, the brand new official disciple of the Hermit of the Azure Robe. The edgy senior brother narrows his eyes, glaring at her with total disgust and calling her a filthy little beggar. Soso blinks in shock, internally screaming how on earth he managed to guess her previous job status so fast. Quick on her feet, Soso points straight at the heavy wooden tray in his hands, explaining that eldest brother Hyeong-ak personally ordered her to deliver his gourmet breakfast and formally pay her respects. The grumpy teen lets out a heavy, irritated sigh, grumbling under his breath about how eldest brother Hyeong-ak keeps doing completely unnecessary favors for random kids. Clasping her tiny hands together with sparkling puppy dog eyes, Soso beams with total excitement, politely asking this mysterious, moody senior brother for his grand, honorable name. Veins literally pop on the teen's forehead as his face twists into pure, unadulterated annoyance, completely refusing to give this bubbly toddler the time of day. Without warning, he violently slams the heavy wooden door straight in her face, shouting at her to get lost as a massive gust of wind nearly blows tiny Soso off the stone porch. The scene shifts back to the tranquil inner medical room, where delicate hands glow with a soft blue key aura, gently pressing against Soso's wrist to diagnose her internal meridians. Sitting gracefully in pure white and azure robes, the legendary Hermit of the Azure Robe concentrates deeply, channeling his divine diagnostic energy through her small body. Kneeling quietly on the wooden floor, Soso fidgets anxiously before timidly asking for the diagnosis. The master calmly responds that with proper dedication, she could easily achieve monumental success. Soso's eyes light up with pure bliss. She instantly starts gloating in her head, convinced that her fast running speed was undeniable proof of her hidden god-tier martial genius all along. Trying to sound like an expert martial arts protagonist, Soso casually asks if her sudden random body chills mean she possesses the legendary extreme yin constitution. Master raises an eyebrow, asking where a 4-year-old could possibly learn such high-level jargon. Soso proudly puffs out her tiny chest, revealing she learned it back when she was in the Beggars Gang, right before she knocked the branch leader over the head with a stick and deserted. Master just blinks in quiet astonishment. Restoring a stoic posture, Master calmly shatters her dramatic fantasy, confirming with absolute certainty that she definitely does not have an extreme yin constitution. Soso dramatically droops her shoulders in disappointment. There goes her grand dream of becoming an overpowered ice magic martial goddess. Refusing to give up, Soso strikes a fiery, explosive martial arts punch pose, loudly asking if she instead possesses the opposite, an extreme yang constitution. Master deadpans immediately, shutting her down without hesitation. Sweating nervously, Soso twiddles her fingers and whispers if she has a heavenly martial constitution instead. Master amusedly remarks that while it's great to dream big, a dream resides in dreamland. Turning his gaze back toward her with a serious, mysterious aura, Master leans in slightly, telling her that if she truly wants to know her actual physical condition, Master suddenly throws his arms wide open with a dazzling, flower-blooming smile. Seriously, check out the sheer mood shift here. This Grandmaster went from stoic divinity to a full-blown game show host in 1 second. Soso completely freezes in place with blank white eye sockets. Her brain totally short-circuits at the absurdly dramatic build-up for absolutely nothing. With a gentle, proud smile, Master casually explains that despite whatever wild martial fantasy she had, the medical truth is simply that she has an extraordinarily healthy and sturdy body. Looking over her small frame, Master notes that she appears to be around 8 years old, praising Hyeong-ak for taking such meticulous care of her while she was unconscious. Master warmly adds that if she eats well, sleeps well, and trains hard, she'll achieve ultimate success, because health is the greatest treasure. Soso screams in utter disbelief, asking if basic childhood wellness was his definition of great success? Grabbing her own collar in sheer desperation, Soso frantically tries to explain her bizarre physical symptoms before he completely dismisses her as a normal kid. Soso describes how every time she runs at full speed, her stomach violently churns and her whole body flips between scorching hot and freezing cold. This information is not medical advice or diagnosis. See a healthcare professional or seek care. Tapping his chin thoughtfully, Master's calm expression sharpens as he admits that such a violent temperature fluctuation is actually extremely unusual even for him. A glowing golden spiritual diagram appears, highlighting the human body's 3 vital energy centers, breathlessly the upper, middle, and lower Dantian reserves. Master explains that the core difference between a master martial artist and a regular civilian lies in whether they can awaken and control these specific energy vessels through cultivation. Looking down at the kneeling toddler, Master reveals the shocking reality. Soso possesses 0 energy centers in her body, yet somehow holds a massive reservoir of active internal chi without ever training. Master deadpans that her body is literally stuffed to the brim with raw internal energy like a stuffed pig. Chibi Soso turns into a literal pig, screaming in complete outrage at the insulting metaphor. Narrowing his eyes with intense medical focus, Master leans closer, realizing there is an even bigger mystery hidden beneath her skin. Soft sunlight glimmers through the trees as tiny leaves float across the room, wrapping the revelation in a breathless atmospheric calm. A stunning glowing aura diagram reveals Soso's inner structure. Master realizes it's not that she lacks a dantian, her entire physical body is the energy vessel. Master lightly pokes Soso's tiny stomach, shocking her as he reveals that an ocean of raw, seething divine essence is trapped inside her belly. Concentrated chi streams swirl violently around her spine as Master explains that because this raw energy has no proper energy center to settle in, it wildly surges whenever she moves, causing her burning fever and freezing chills. Soso's mind blows wide open. She finally realizes that every time she ran like a maniac in her past life, she was unconsciously unleashing God-tier true essence. Chibi Master pokes his head out, casually asking if she accidentally swallowed a legendary divine Sintamani pearl or a heavenly elixir. Chibi Soso nervously sweat drops, stammering that she has no clue. Soso frantically racks her inner author memory, gasping, remembering that she only tried to steal a spirit elixir back at Dongting Lake, but never actually got to eat it. Glancing back as Master consults with Hyeong-ak in the background, Soso realizes that if the original owner of this body ate a god-tier treasure before she transmigrated, only that dead child knows the real truth. A somber flashback silhouette shows the original young girl walking alone into the dark, starry mist. Soso clutches her chest, realizing the mystery of this body goes way deeper than she thought. Standing up in his pristine robes, Master warns her that wanting to learn martial arts is actually a matter of life and death now. A terrifying cartoon visual shows Chibi Soso getting sucked dry like a juice box through a straw. Master bluntly warns that if wicked demonic sects find out about her endless energy, they will kidnap her and harvest her like human livestock. Soso's face turns ghost white. Sweating profusely, she turns to Hyeong-ak, nervously laughing that Master is definitely just pulling a super dark prank on her, right? Master responds with a silent, graceful smirk, keeping his eyes closed in absolute silence. Soso's voice cracking in pure terror as the realization settles in. Master flashes a bright, sunny smile, telling her that if she trains like crazy from now on, she might become strong enough to survive the inevitable kidnapping attempts. Soso screams in utter panic, asking why her kidnapping is already set in stone. Turning around in mild confusion, Master tilts his head, asking why she's calling him Master in the first place. Soso jumps up in total shock, demanding to know if he already accepted her. Master looks down with a calm, unbothered stare, casually declaring that he hasn't accepted her as his disciple yet. Question marks literally rain down over Soso's frozen face. Master turns his back, flanked by his loyal disciples, bowing respectfully, firmly stating that his sanctuary is far too dangerous for a young child, and keeping her unusual body hidden is the safest choice. Looking back over his shoulder with an enigmatic, captivating smile, Master tells her that the ultimate path she walks is entirely up to her. Now let me ask you guys, should Soso force her way into becoming his official disciple or play it safe? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Master lays down the ultimate initiation challenge. If Soso wants to become his official disciple, she has to step outside the medicine hall, look around Green Mountain Peak, and decide if she can truly endure living here. Master gives a gentle, mysterious smile, adding that if she manages to tour the grounds and properly pay her respects to all her future senior brothers, he will officially accept her into the sect. Soso's jaw drops as she realizes this is her golden ticket. Clasping her tiny fist with absolute determination, Soso beams with total joy, shouting that she will easily crush this test. Look at that fiery kid energy. She's ready to conquer the whole mountain. Stepping outside, the sheer scale of Green Mountain Peak comes into full view, surrounded by endless misty cliffs and majestic ancient floating landscapes. Kneeling at the edge of a towering precipice, Soso looks down with wide eyes, completely baffled as sea clouds float right underneath her feet. Realizing she's standing on a massive vertical fortress in the sky, Soso gulps nervously. One misstep here and she'll be taking a one-way trip to the bottom. Out of nowhere, a pale hand violently grabs her shoulder from behind. "Hey, kid!" Soso lets out a high-pitched eek as her heart leaps straight out of her chest. Soso spins around to see Danwi standing there with his trademark lazy smirk. Recognizing her savior, Soso instantly shouts his name in pure relief, while Danwi casually tells her to follow him if she's done gawking at the scenery. Collapsing onto the stone path while clutching her heart, Soso pants heavily, grumbling inside that this guy almost gave her a whole heart attack. Trotting quickly behind Danwi's long, sweeping robes, Soso tries her best to keep pace as he leads her deeper through the winding mountain pathways. Leading her into a massive wooden complex, Danwi sternly warns her never to wander around these grand pavilions alone just to explore the layout. Turning around with a terrifyingly dark, shadowy glare, Danwi sinisterly whispers that if she gets lost in this maze, nobody will find her for an entire week. Soso shrieks in absolute horror. Talk about top-tier fear tactics to keep a toddler in line. Terrified out of her mind, Chibi Soso instantly lunges forward, hugging Danwi's leg like a frightened koala. Danwi just smirks down lazily, patting her head like a stray puppy. Opening a heavy wooden sliding door, Danwi casually introduces the secret medicine vault, packed to the brim with priceless ancient herbs and rare alchemical treasures. Soso's eyes bulge out in complete disbelief. Danwi points to the side, offhandedly mentioning that the room next door is also an identical mega vault full of secrets. Soso's brain short-circuits. Just how ridiculously rich is this sect? Walking over to a crystal-clear indoor pond, Danwi calmly warns her not to fall in because an ancient mythical Amugi dragon sleeps at the bottom. Soso nearly faints in shock as a giant golden carp swims right beneath her feet. Staring into the shimmering water, Soso's author knowledge kicks in. That's not just a regular fish, that's a legendary 10,000-year fire carp. This pond is basically a walking cheat code jackpot. Holding her head in pure bewilderment, Soso tries to process the absurdity of her new home. Stalactite fluid equivalent to Shaolin's top pills? Mythical carp and actual dragons in the backyard? Soso clutches her head, screaming internally about what kind of overpowered monster domain she just walked into. Danwi just chuckles, walking off and threatening to leave her behind if she keeps slacking. Crossing a stone bridge, Danwi points toward a breathtaking multi-story golden palace floating amid the mountain mist, revealing the main inner sanctuary. After an exhaustive grand tour through dozens of jaw-dropping hidden treasures and celestial architecture, Soso is left in absolute, speechless awe. Completely drained of all physical energy, Chibi Soso sits on a wooden bench with her soul literally floating out of her mouth. Poor kid got a full workout just looking at rich magic items. Looking up at Danwi with glazed eyes, Soso timidly asks if this place is actually the heavenly realm. Danwi crosses his arms, immediately shutting her down with a cool, absolutely not. Soso mutters under her breath that obviously it isn't, because if it were heaven, a mischievous guy like great hero Danwi definitely wouldn't be allowed inside. Danwi's eye twitches instantly. "I heard that, kid." Veins literally pop on Danwi's forehead as he glares down at the shameless little brat, while Soso innocently whistles and looks away like she said nothing wrong. Danwi gazes down in silent disbelief at her sheer audacity, realizing this 4-year-old toddler has way too much attitude for her own good. Plunking himself down on a seat, Danwi relaxes his posture and calls her over with a casual wave of his hand. Turns out, despite her snarky commentary, Danwi actually gives her the exact whereabouts and habits of her final senior brother so she can complete her greeting mission. Shaking her chibi head with a smug grin, Soso boasts to herself about her flawless negotiation skills. See, a little child tantrum goes a long way when dealing with lenient elders. Soso recalls her brutal rejection earlier, remembering how the moody teen slammed the heavy wooden door straight in her face with a loud, "Get lost!" Danwi pops up right behind her out of nowhere, chuckling that the grumpy teen acts like a hostile tsundere toward every new arrival. Soso jumps 3 feet into the air. Turning around, Soso asks Danwi how long he's been spying on her embarrassing failure. Soso deadpans that he probably watched the entire thing ever since the teen called her an ugly thing. Smiling warmly, Danwi reassures her not to be discouraged. At least she completed her tour and greeted everyone cheerfully. Now it's time to head back and give her morning greetings to Master. Clasping her tiny hands, Soso nods obediently with a cute, subdued yes as they head back toward the main medical hall. As they walk down the stone stairs together, Danwi fills in their moody senior brother, revealing his name is Gwang. A mental image reveals Gwang sitting alone in a dim room with messy hair, intensely studying blueprints while eating soup. Danwi explains that he specializes in deadly sound arts and mechanical trap formations. Soso tilts her head in curiosity, noting that Gwang looks super young, asking how old he actually is. Danwi's brain suddenly turns into a full-blown math textbook. He smugly lays out a ridiculously confusing word puzzle. Gwang is 7 years older than her, Hyeong-ak is 8 years older than him, and Master is double all three combined. Soso's head completely explodes. Drawing chaotic scribbles and math formulas in the dirt with a wooden stick, fast-paced, Soso works through the insane brain teaser. Sitting back with her stick, Soso proudly smirks at her master-level deduction. Ah, joyful sigh, having successfully summarized all her senior brother's key profiles. Here's the elite squad lineup. Master Hermit of the Azure Robe, age 126 and Hidden God Tier Cultivator. Eldest brother Hyeong-ak, age 28, Master Medic. Second brother Danwi, age 20, Errand Runner. Third brother Gwang age 15, Trap and Sound Genius. Soso remembers delivering breakfast to Gwang only for him to throw the soup bowl against the wall, screaming that it's cold. Soso flinches in sheer panic. Carrying the wooden tray away with teary eyes, Soso sniffles dejectedly, convinced that senior brother Gwang absolutely despises her very existence. Back inside the medicine hall, Master cradles sad Chibi Soso gently on his lap, softly comforting her and explaining that everyone needs time to open their heart. Looking down at the toddler in his arms, Master praises all three of her senior brothers, noting that despite their young age, every single one of them has reached the absolute peak realm in their fields. Master's eyes soften as he reveals a deep, bittersweet truth. None of her senior brothers carry family surnames because they all abandoned their prominent clans in past lives just to follow him. Soso's face lights up with bright flowers. She happily points out that she doesn't have a surname either, meaning she already shares a special bond with all of them. Master's gentle expression turns serious as he looks down into her eyes, asking her straight up if she truly wishes to stay here on Green Mountain Peak. Soso eagerly nods without a second thought. Wrapping his arms around her in a protective embrace, Master leans in, whispering that since she's committed, it's time she learns the true hidden purpose of their order. A sinister glowing silhouette of a legendary master sitting atop a massive coiled serpent appears. Master reveals that they belong neither to the righteous, evil, nor demonic sects. They are secret shadow orchestrators who manipulate fated encounters across the entire Jonghu to maintain absolute world balance, receiving zero fame or reward. Picture finding out that the secret rulers of the entire martial world don't fight for money, fame, or territory. They literally exist just to manipulate destiny from the shadows and keep reality from falling apart. Looking down at his adorable new recruit, Master gazes into Soso's eyes, asking if she's truly ready to step onto this heavy, secret path alongside them. Soso's brain goes into hyperdrive as she processes the sheer magnitude of this revelation, realizing her gentle master is basically the ultimate puppeteer, balancing every major faction in existence. Clasping her tiny fists, Soso's internal monologue practically screams that she just hit the ultimate jackpot. Her master is literally the final boss mastermind of the entire world. Executing a formal martial bow with total commitment, Soso realizes that if she wants to survive the crazy storyline of this game world, there is literally no safer place on Earth than right beside this legendary god. Blooming with bright, sparkly flower petals of pure joy, Chibi Soso shouts at the top of her lungs, begging Master to officially accept her as his true disciple. Look at that shameless persistence. She is not letting this opportunity slip through her fingers. Surrounded by glowing golden light and cherry blossoms, Master smiles with endless warmth, softly chuckling that after a performance like that, he couldn't possibly turn her down. Lifting the tiny toddler onto his lap, Master holds her gently, casually asking if she actually likes her current name, Soge. Gently stroking her head, Master softly points out that the "gay" in her name literally translates to beggar. Leave it to ancient names to be brutally honest. He explains that people might assume she belongs to the beggars gang just by hearing it. Chibi Soso stands there completely paralyzed in shock, imagining an actual cow standing next to her, as she realizes her name literally sounds like Little Beggar Cow. Talk about an emotional damage critical hit. Looking down with tender eyes, Master offers to bestow a brand new, beautiful name upon her if she'd like. Soso's eyes turn into literal giant diamonds as she pumps her tiny fists in excitement, eagerly begging him to rename her on the spot. Resting her against his chest, gasp, Master closes his eyes in thoughtful silence, carefully contemplating the perfect name for his newest disciple. Opening his eyes with a subtle, gentle glint, Master softly smiles as the perfect name finally comes to him. Golden lotus flowers bloom around them as Master announces her new name, So Young, keeping the so for small and adding young for flower, representing a delicate blossom waiting to bloom. Lightly poking her soft cheek, Master warmly explains that while she can choose a terrifying legendary title when she becomes a famous hero later, a birth name should always remind her that she's deeply loved. Soso clutches her flushed cheeks with teary eyes, resting her face in her hands as her heart melts from the sheer affection. Noticing her quiet reaction, Master chuckles softly, asking why she looks so overwhelmed. So Young buries her face in his robes, shyly whispering that being loved is a completely new feeling for her. Man, who threw a tear gas grenade in here? That hit right in the feels. Smiling down at his emotional little disciple, Master decides to cheer her up, asking if she wants to see a neat trick. Raising his bare hand, Master channels his inner energy, instantly sprouting a glowing magical branch covered in fiery crimson plum blossoms right out of thin air. Mystical flower petals flutter and swirl through the air as Master softly predicts that when So Young grows up and achieves greatness, her brilliance will bloom like fire across the whole world. Winking playfully, Master lets the glowing petals flutter around his hand like a true flex master. Seriously, this guy isn't just a god-tier cultivator, he's a master at child entertainment. So Young's jaw drops to the floor in absolute reverence, gasping in excitement as she asks if she'll ever be able to pull off cool magic like that. Master casually assures her that she definitely will. Helping her cross her tiny legs on the cushion, Master gently positions her into a proper lotus meditation posture, promising to guide her personal training step by step. Placing his palms softly onto the back of her head, Master instructs her to relax while he infuses a thread of his own heavenly energy to guide her internal circulation. Guiding her through deep breathing exercises, Master explains how to focus her mind along her core acupoints, quick low breath, tracing a straight line down to her lower dantian. As a glowing celestial aura surrounds Chibi So Young, Master notes internally that while normal martial artists take years to open their meridian pathways, night falls over the tranquil mountain peak, surrounding the quiet pavilion in cool blue moonlight. Stepping back with a glowing blue aura, Master waves goodbye with a soft smile, telling her that they'll resume her daily training tomorrow. The second Master steps out, Chibi So Young collapses forward like a deflated balloon, her soul literally floating out of her mouth as she croaks out a thank you. Poor kid got her meridians force opened on day one. Staggering through the courtyard like a miniature zombie, So Young stumbles right past Danwi, who happens to be carrying a massive tray of delicious dinner. Danwi deadpans in shock, asking Master what on earth happened to the kid. Master casually chuckles that she just completed her theoretical learning and a full internal energy circulation in a single afternoon. Danwi literally loses his mind. What? Watching the tiny toddler wobble away into the dark, Danwi nervously mutters if she's even going to survive the night or if she's planning to run away from this torture mountain. Master's smile fades into a serious expression as he reveals that So Young cleared every single one of her blocked acupoints in just a few short hours. Danwi's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. Master softly explains that because her meridians are completely clear, So Young possesses the terrifying ability to instantly absorb and master any internal cultivation manual in existence. Holding the food tray, Danwi gasps out if that isn't the legendary Heavenly Martial Constitution, the rarest cheat code in martial history, but Master shakes his head, clarifying it's not her body, but the unique nature of her raw internal energy. Picking up a small teacup, Master solemnly warns that if So Young fails to control this volatile energy properly, whispers dramatically, it will destroy her from the inside out like a lethal poison. Taking a quiet sip, Master admits that the child still has an insanely long and dangerous road ahead of her. Staring down in deep thought, Danwi gazes at his master, quietly questioning why Master chose to personally take her in as his direct disciple. Looking across the dim room, Danwi asks the ultimate question. Was Master's original fated encounter with So Young actually planned all along? Master sips his tea in complete stoic silence, keeping his true intentions hidden behind an unreadable, enigmatic smile. Wait, is Master a benevolent savior, or is he playing a massive 4D chess game with her life? Drop your theories in the comments. Early the next morning, bright sunlight streams through the window as tiny So-young wakes up, sleepy voice rubbing her sleepy eyes with determination. Rolling up her blanket with extreme precision, So-young prepares herself for another intense day on the mountain. Sprinting out into the morning sunshine, So-young thrusts her fist into the air, hyping herself up to work so hard that her master and senior brothers will fall in love with her and never throw her out. Arriving at the kitchen, eldest brother Hyeong-ak smiles warmly as So-young rushes in, praising her for coming early to deliver breakfast to grumpy Gwang-um again. Grabbing the heavy wooden tray, chibi So-young zooms out of the room at light speed, shouting a cheerful goodbye as Hyeong-ak waves. Speed walking across the dirt path, So-young reminds herself that since third senior brother Gwang-um is an antisocial recluse stuck in his workshop, she has to bring the food directly to his door. Waving from down the path, Don-wi casually greets the hardworking toddler as she carries the tray past the tall green trees. Leaning down with his signature mischievous smirk, Don-wi whispers that he's got some juicy secret gossip about her moody senior brother. Danwi's eyes glint with playful mischief as he leans in close, revealing that Gwang-um's bad attitude actually hides a super ridiculous secret. Dashing right past senior brother Danwi with a steaming food tray, So-young yells out that she's in a massive hurry before the soup gets cold, leaving Danwi standing there in complete confusion. Balancing the heavy wooden breakfast table high above her head with tiny arms, So-young powers up the steep stone steps toward Gwang-um's workshop. Reaching the massive wooden doors, So-young knocks softly, feeling super proud that her stamina has increased so much after yesterday's meridian training. The thick wooden doors slowly creep open on their own with an eerie creak, catching the little toddler completely off guard. Peeking through the narrow gap, So-young hesitates for a second, wondering if it's actually safe to step into the gloomy workshop without an invitation. Stepping past the threshold, she realizes with a sudden shudder that she didn't hear the morning alarm bell ring anywhere on the peak today. A sudden chill runs down her spine as glowing floral petals surround her, making her wonder if something terrible went down inside. Lo and behold, before she can even take 3 steps, a trapdoor opens beneath her feet, and So-young plunges straight into a pit trap. Third senior brother Gwang-um casually peers down from above, smirking at her predicament. Tossing a thick rope down into the dark pit, Gwang-um dryly asks if she's planning on setting up camp down there or actually climb out. Hoisting the embarrassed toddler out of the hole, Gwang-um raises an eyebrow while So-young red-facedly stammers out an apology, admitting she never expected booby traps inside the building. Man, imagine visiting your senior brother only to get spawn-killed by floor tile traps. Humping in annoyance, Gwang-um turns on his heel and struts deeper into his secret lair as So-young scrambles to keep up. Glancing back over his shoulder with a moody glare, he asks why she's standing there like a statue instead of following him. Eyes sparkling with absolute joy, So-young squeals in excitement and zooms right behind her introverted senior brother. Walking together through a grand, sunlit wooden corridor, the quiet atmosphere feels surprisingly peaceful. Pointing toward the dim walls, Gwang-um casually mentions that if she were an actual trespasser, he would have triggered the lethal poison sand traps instead. So-young asks if he already knew she was coming, to which Gwang-im deadpans that of course he knew, given her loud footsteps. So-young's sweat drops internally, muttering under her breath about how dramatic this moody engineer is. Stepping into a massive, golden-lit hall filled with endless bookshelves, Gwang-um proudly introduces his secret manual library, leaving So-young wide-eyed with her jaw on the floor. Noticing dark, ominous energy wafting from a forbidden cabinet, So-young's sweat drops, questioning why dangerous demonic arts are lying around in an orthodox mountain retreat. When Gwang-um asks if she wants to learn a dark technique, So-young aggressively shakes her head, rejecting self-destructive demonic arts outright. She's way too smart to fall for the classic dark magic speedrun trap. Sweeping his arms across the grand room, Gwang-um explains that practically every major martial arts manual in existence is archived right here, except for a few secret ancestral arts. Touching the wooden scrolls, Gwang-um lists off fist techniques, sabers, spears, swords, staffs, and intricate mechanical trap formations. He reveals that second brother Don-wi asked him to help her once, so she gets one single choice. So-young's heart melts as she promises to treat Don-wi like royalty from now on. Imagining grand scenarios, So-young envisions legendary swordmasters slicing through the air, martial artists crushing boulders barehanded, and staff warriors sweeping through armies. Clenching her fist with fiery determination, So-young reminds herself that after climbing this crazy mountain, she has to choose the ultimate power. Gwangum asks if she's made up her mind, and Soyoung proudly raises her hand to announce her final choice. Reaching out toward a specific shelf, her tiny hand pulls out a thick, leather-bound manual on mechanical formations. Holding the manual tightly against her chest with glowing diamond eyes, Soyoung beams, declaring she wants to master devices and booby traps. Gwangum's face completely freezes in sheer, unadulterated disbelief. Gasp, his mind completely short-circuiting. Pointing a trembling finger, Gwangum stammers in shock, asking if she seriously wants to learn mechanical trap formations instead of actual combat arts. Grabbing Soyoung's tiny shoulders, Gwangum practically shakes her, asking why on earth she'd choose traps when she said she wanted to get strong. Soyoung boldly declares that traps are the strongest art in the universe. Staring into his intense eyes, Soyoung stammers, suddenly realizing why he's acting so unnaturally flustered by her choice. Remembering her earlier gossip with Danwi, Soyoung realizes Gwangum himself is the genius engineer who designed all the mountain's insane defense mechanisms. Soyoung cleverly explains that when she fell into his pit trap earlier, she realized if he hadn't held back, she would have been instant toast, proving traps are absolute god-tier OP. Gwangum gazes at her softly, asking if she really doesn't find using hidden traps and ambush tactics cowardly or dishonorable. Soyoung shrugs, stating that strong is strong, no matter how it's done. Hugging her manual tightly surrounded by blooming lotus flowers, Soyoung smiles sweetly, declaring that as long as she survives, she couldn't care less about silly honor rules. Seriously, this kid has the ultimate pragmatist mindset. Who needs honorable duels when you can just landmine your enemies? Gwangum paces back and forth in circles like a malfunctioning robot, muttering in complete shock at her revolutionary mindset. Softly whispering under his breath, Gwangum murmurs that maybe she actually does belong on this mountain after all. Soyoung squints in confusion, asking what he just said. Turning back with a grave look, Gwangum warns her that the martial world values chivalry to an absurd degree, and they will brand her a coward if she boasts about traps outside. Soyoung blinks, asserting she's never leaving this safe mountain anyway. Gwangum scoffs, warning that once she grows up, Master will send her on dangerous missions out in the wild. Soyoung instantly points her finger at him, calling out his hypocrisy since he literally never leaves his room either. The playful mood instantly vanishes as Gwangum's shadow falls over his eyes, whispering, his voice dropping to a painful whisper. Looking down at the floor with a heartbroken expression, Gwangum solemnly confesses that he cannot go back out into the Jianghu, deadpan, ever. Soyoung's eyes widen as the temperature drops, softly asking him what kind of tragic past is keeping him trapped inside. Clenching his jaw in agony, Gwangum reveals his biggest secret. Gasp! He originally belonged to the legendary Namgung clan. Soyoung's jaw drops to the floor in total disbelief. The Namgung clan is literally the second most powerful noble family in the entire martial world. Her mind practically explodes as she internally screams in shock at the realization of his elite lineage. Gwangum bitterly explains that he was from a minor family branch who basically fell in love with trap mechanisms, which the arrogant main clan dismissed as trashy, useless gimmicks. Flashback visuals reveal a blood-stained courtyard filled with slaughtered bodies, as Gwangum recalls how the main family's wrath led to his entire branch family being brutally massacred. Soyoung clutches her manual while cold sweat pours down her face, suddenly realizing she recognizes this exact dark backstory from the original game lore. Flashback panels reveal the future plot where the main Namgung clan framed the branch family and wiped them out, only for the heavenly demon protagonist to expose their hypocrisy years later to tear down the righteous alliance. Man, talk about an insane plot twist. Every single disciple on this mountain carries a world-shaking secret. Imagine opening up about your darkest trauma, only for an 8-year-old kid to immediately pivot back to asking for trap tutorials. Staring up at her sullen senior brother, Soyoung nods along awkwardly, thinking about how depressing his backstory is, before jumping straight back to business about mechanical formations. Before he can say another word, Soyoung lunges forward and slaps her tiny hands directly over his lips. She boldly shouts that she understands everything now, realizing he wasn't trying to be cruel earlier, he was just trying to protect her from getting dragged into his family's bloody past. Looking into his wide, flustered eyes, she insists that he pushed her away because he didn't want her involved in the dangerous martial world. Talk about maximum emotional intelligence from a toddler. Pointing toward the flickering torches on the wall, So-young declares that if the martial world's definition of honor means innocent people get slaughtered over petty grudges, contemptuous breath, then she'd rather be branded a total coward. Staring straight into his stunned reflection, she looks him in the eye and begs him to teach her the art of mechanical formations. She flashes the most dazzling, manipulative, cute smile you've ever seen. Honestly, who could possibly say no to a face like that after a speech like that? Completely overwhelmed by her sheer audacity, Gwang-eum twitches his fingers in flustered embarrassment, his stoic, introverted shell completely shattered. Turning back toward the bookshelf, he reaches out and pulls down a heavy manual, dryly warning her that mastering mechanical trap formations isn't going to be a walk in the park. He casually drops the heavy book down into her tiny hands. He smugly notes that it requires precise energy control and a brilliant genius mind, just like his own, of course. A soft, handsome smile actually breaks across his face as floral petals bloom around him. He tells her that if she ever gets stuck during her training, she's welcome to find him at the Hall of True Resonance. So-young blinks in disbelief, asking if she's really allowed to visit. Gwang-eum deadpans back, asking if she honestly expected to master high-level mechanical engineering all by herself. Beaming with absolute delight, So-young hugs the thick manual against her chest and squeals out aloud, "Thank you." Man, watching this moody introvert soft launch his big brother arc is somehow strangely satisfying. Instantly turning on his heel to hide his blushing face, Gwang-eum waves his hand and rudely tells her to get out if she's done. So-young gives a crisp, energetic salute without missing a beat. The heavy wooden door slams shut behind her as she steps outside into the bright sunlight, letting out a massive sigh of relief. Throwing her arms up into the air, she celebrates her huge victory with a triumphant cheer. Clutching her new prize, she reflects on how successful her morning was. Not only did she secure the trap manual, but she also cleared up the misunderstanding with her introverted senior brother. Doing a little happy dance along the wooden corridor, she ponders the fact that Gwang-eum is actually the exiled Namgung prodigy from the original game story. This kid is basically collecting fallen noble prodigies like Pokemon cards. Her cheerful mood subtly shifts as she gazes up at the sky, wondering if the major plot events are finally about to trigger. Far across the realm, the shadows of the demonic cult are beginning to rise, setting the stage for a young, abused slave who is fated to undergo a horrific awakening and become the ruthless heavenly demon. Skipping down the stone steps, Se-young pragmatically reminds herself that while the game's protagonist is currently suffering through absolute hell, it's none of her business. Why should a tiny rabbit waste time worrying about a future tiger? As a gentle breeze blows through the tall trees, she reassures herself that the main plotline has absolutely nothing to do with her peaceful life on Green Mountain Peak. Meanwhile, deep inside a dark and damp underground dungeon, a single fallen leaf drifts past an ominous wooden archway. Inside the filthy wooden cages, ragged prisoners sit in silent despair, broken by relentless torture and starvation. Heavy iron shackles dig into the bruised, dirt-caked ankles of a young boy sitting motionless on the cold stone floor. Underneath his messy hair, a single golden eye gleams with icy, murderous intent as he stares at the fallen leaf. Yikes, check out that death glare. This kid hasn't even awakened his demonic powers yet, but he already looks ready to burn the whole world down. Cut back to the sunny mountain peak, where a teasing voice suddenly calls out from the lush lotus pond, warning someone about sticking their face out too far. Leaning down with a charming, playful smirk, second senior brother Danwi dramatically warns So-young that an ancient Imugi sea serpent might pop out and gobble her up. So-young sits comfortably by the grassy pond under the shade of a massive green tree, while Danwi lounges casually against the trunk. Looking up at him with unamused eyes, So-young scoffs, asking if he seriously expects a full-grown adult soul to fall for a bedtime fairy tale. Deciding to indulge his dramatic nature, she clenches her tiny fists and puts on a terrified face, eagerly asking if he's ever seen a real Imugi before. Danwi smugly boasts that they're terrifying monsters, capable of swallowing toddlers in a single bite. Gesturing with his hands, Danwi explains that an Imugi preparing to ascend into a dragon can shapeshift at will, shrinking to the size of a tiny palm or expanding massive as Green Mountain itself, all while obsessively hunting for spirit pills to power up. As Danwi casually mentions that an Imugi's newly grown limbs look as thin as a tiny lizard's, So-young's heart drops straight through her stomach. Flashback visuals hit her like a freight train. She realizes that the strange white lizard she fed her precious high-grade spirit pill to earlier wasn't a cute pet, it was a literal mythical dragon in training. Sweat pouring down her forehead as question marks float around her head, So-young panics internally over what she just unleashed. Meanwhile, Danwi casually pulls out a warm paper bag of food. Telling her to forget about mythical beasts, Danwi shoves a warm, fluffy steam bun straight into her mouth. Restfully resting his cheek on his hand, he mentions that Master is waiting for her over by the wooden bench once she finishes her snack. Munching contentedly on the delicious bun, So-young innocently asks if today is supposed to be his day off from training. Danwi cheerfully answers, chuckle nope. A sharp, dangerous glint suddenly flashes across Danwi's eyes as his playful demeanor completely flips into full instructor mode. Shouting in comedic rage, Danwi lectures her that every single day is a training day for a true martial artist, demanding to know if she's been practicing the lightness movement technique he taught her. So-young squeals in utter terror. Ah! Bolting away like a startled rabbit with her manual tucked under her arm, So-young yells that she's going to see Master immediately. Man, nothing motivates a lazy toddler like the threat of pop quiz martial arts drills. Standing alone in the blowing autumn leaves, Danwi looks majestic and calm as he watches her disappear down the path. Turning his head toward a nearby stone pillar, Danwi casually asks why his hidden guest is crouching back there. Stepping out from behind the wall holding his book, Gwang-eum frowns moodily as Danwi asks why he hates running into little Soso so much. Moody as ever, Gwang-eum scoffs that she's just a smooth-talking brat and he despises her. Danwi chuckles, teasingly asking why he's throwing a temper tantrum over an 8-year-old child. Flush-faced with frustration, Gwang-eum shouts that she's totally useless, yet managed to charm Master with her silver tongue. He fumes over why Master took in a homeless beggar with zero martial background instead of a dedicated apprentice. Plugging his ears with his fingers as Gwang-eum rants, Danwi dryly complains that his ears are bleeding from all the childish whining, asking why he doesn't just complain to Master directly. Dropping his playful tone, Danwi reminds him that Master rescued both of their lives, so neither of them has any right to question Master's choices. Besides, Danwi gently points out that So-young already knows he dislikes her, recalling how Gwang-eum specifically begged senior brother Hyeong-ak to keep the kid out of his sight. Looking away with an embarrassed blush, Gwang-eum stammers that it was only because she barged into his workshop praising his strength, which felt like cruel mockery given his ruined background. Playfully squishing Gwang-eum's cheeks, Danwi smirks and points out the hilarious hypocrisy. No matter how big this mountain is, he couldn't even avoid her for a single morning. Looks like this moody engineer is destined to be wrapped around her little finger, whether he likes it or not. Ever wonder what happens when a moody genius gets reminded of his traumatic past right before getting outsmarted by an 8-year-old? Back near the lotus pond, Danwi places a gentle hand on Gwang-eum's head, softly reminding him that no matter how bitter he feels about his own tragic history, little Soso is just an innocent child who deserves a fair chance. A dark flashback flashes across Gwang-eum's mind, showing his younger self surrounded by ominous silhouettes as he cried alone over ancient texts. Danwi's voice resonates in his head, whispers dramatically, warning him not to inflict the same cruel isolation on the young girl that he had to suffer back then. Danwi presses further, pointing out that Master explicitly stated So-young would end up being a massive source of help to him. He asks a stubborn junior if he really doubts Master's legendary foresight. Gwang-eum pauses in total shock, staring down at his reflection in the water while asking if Master truly said those words about the young beggar girl. Gently running his fingers through Danwi's long hair, Danwi urges him that the next time Soso comes visiting his annex, he shouldn't chase her away. Honestly, watching Danwi act like the ultimate supportive big brother is so heartwarming. Completely overwhelmed by the emotional intervention, Gwang-eum buries his face in his collar and mumbles out a reluctant agreement, making Danwi tease him for slurring his words. Driven completely wild with embarrassment, Gwang-eum starts violently shaking his head back and forth while Danwi struggles to hold him still. Talk about an introverted overload. Bolting down the dirt path as fast as his legs can carry him, Gwang-eum runs away while Danwi shites after him to show some basic respect to his senior brother. Clamping his hands firmly over his ears, Gwang-eum keeps running as Danwi loudly lectures him to tie his messy hair back like a proper martial artist. Watching the moody boy disappear into the distance, Chibi Danwi lets out a deep, exhausted sigh. Man, managing tsundere martial arts prodigies must be a full-time job on this mountain. Danwi's playful smile fades as he gazes into the sky, silently reflecting on whether his words were enough to break through the walls Gwang-eum built around his heart. The camera pans over the majestic, sunlit rooftops of the Green Mountain Peak Sect, where the air is calm and tranquil. Inside the main courtyard pavilion, Master sits cross-legged on the floor while Danwi kneels across from him, whispering, asking if he knows just how strained the tension is between Soyoung and Gwang-eum. Gently tapping the burnt ashes out of his long smoking pipe, Master chuckles softly and reassures his apprentice that everything is going according to plan. Flashing a mysterious, knowing smirk, Master notes that all they need to do is give the kids a single push, and little Soso will effortlessly handle the rest on her own. Is it just me, or does Master always look like he's playing three-dimensional chess while everyone else is playing checkers? Looking out over the lush mountain ridge, Danwi mentally questions if placing such high expectations on an 8-year-old kid isn't a bit insane. Pink cherry blossom petals drift gently through the mountain breeze around the ancient wooden residence. Master lies casually on a wooden bench under the blooming cherry trees as Soyoung comes scampering over, eagerly announcing that she heard he was looking for her. Sitting up gracefully, Master asks if she has successfully memorized all the vital acupoint locations and learned how to write them down correctly. Soyoung beams with pride, enthusiastically confirming that she mastered every single one. Gently patting her head, Master praises her for learning at a speed that puts her senior brothers to shame. He announces that it's finally time for her to choose a cultivation manual and begin learning true martial arts. Clapping her tiny hands together in sheer joy, Soyoung celebrates her upcoming power-up. She eagerly asks if Master will handpick her secret martial arts manual, only for Master to instantly shut her down with a deadpan no. Master loftily instructs her to head over to the Hall of True Residence, pick out a cultivation manual by herself, and bring it back for him to evaluate. Soyoung's jaw drops in utter panic as she reminds him that the Hall of True Residence happens to be Gwang-eum's private domain. Flashing the most playful, mischievous grin you'll ever see, Master teasingly asks if she can't just stroll right up and ask her moody senior brother for a favor. Without giving her a single second to argue, Master flops right back onto the wooden bench to resume his afternoon nap. Chibi Soyoung rolls around on the ground throwing a total temper tantrum. Whimper? How in the world is she supposed to complete this mission when Gwang-eum literally put a strict entry ban on her whole existence? High above the clouds, the winding mountain path leads directly toward the isolated fortress annex of the Hall of True Resonance. Dressed in her cute yellow and pink robes, Soyoung's tiny pink shoes giggle step onto the stone path leading up to the annex. Stopping at the base of the grand staircase, she looks up at the intimidating entrance and lets out a heavy, resolute breath. Hiking up the steep stone steps, Soyoung pragmatically reminds herself of her golden rule from her past life as a beggar: never trust anyone completely. If she wants to prove her worth to Master and secure her place on this mountain, she has to pass this test with her own two hands. Reaching the main entrance of Gwang-eum's domain, she pushes against the massive wooden doors, only to find them completely locked tight from the inside. Crouching down low to the floor, she frantically scans the perimeter wall to see if there's any hidden gap or dog hole she can crawl through. Suddenly, her eyes lock onto a tiny arched opening concealed right beneath a patch of dense green bushes. Knowing a mechanical mastermind like Gwang-eum would never accidentally leave a hole in his fortress wall, Soyoung instantly deduces that second senior brother Danwi must have secretly created this shortcut to help her sneak in. Mentally sending endless thanks to her reliable second senior, Soyoung squeezes her tiny body through the narrow wall opening. Poking her head out into the inner courtyard, she carefully scans the area to make sure no one is lying in wait. The courtyard's completely deserted, dominated by a massive bronze temple bell hanging beneath the wooden roof. Suddenly, footsteps echo across the stone patio when Gwang-eum strolls right past the bell, carrying a heavy stack of wooden manual slats. Walking right past her hiding spot, his stoic face remains completely calm as he marches deeper into the courtyard. Hugging the icy bronze bell for dear life, Chibi Soyoung shakes uncontrollably, sweating buckets over almost getting caught 5 seconds after breaking in. Pausing in his tracks, Gwang-eum slowly glances back toward the bronze bell with a sharp, suspicious glare. Seeing nothing out of the ordinary, he turns back around and continues walking toward the main archive building. Peeking her head out from behind the bell, Soyoung lets out a massive sigh of relief as a shadow vanishes into the corridor. Looking around the vast complex, she spots a grand 2-story wooden pavilion that perfectly matches the location of the Sect's secret manual repository. Bursting through the open doorway with a heroic pose, Soyoung triumphantly declares that the secret manual library is finally hers for the taking. But as she takes her first confident step into the room, her tiny shoe presses directly down on a raised stone tile in the floor. A massive trapdoor instantly swings open beneath her feet, sending her screaming right down into the dark abyss. She faceplants directly onto the dirt floor below with a hilarious muffled groaning noise. Seriously, watching an adult soul and a child's body fall for the most classic pitfall trap is comedic gold. Shaking the dirt out of her hair, she sits up. A cold, sarcastic voice echoes from above, calling her a completely pathetic sight. Looking straight up at the square opening in the ceiling, she sees Gwang-eum looking down at her with the ultimate smug, unamused death glare. You've got to give credit where it's due. This moody engineer's security system is operating at 100% efficiency. Falling straight into a trap room was not on So-young's bucket list today. Looking down from the ceiling hatch, Gwang-eum glares at his intruder, leaving her wondering if this moody engineering genius knew she was coming all along. Panning down to the center of the archive hall, a mysterious figure in dark martial robes stands completely motionless, absorbing the silence of the hidden facility. Looking straight up at the ceiling rafters, Gwang-eum dryly points out that the little girl has already run off, asking if he can finally be let down now. Up in the rafters, second senior brother Dan-wi is hanging upside down inside a tightly bound rope trap, cheerfully waving like he's on a luxury vacation. Glowing with smug pride inside his rope cocoon, Dan-wi praises Gwang-eum for how insanely fast his mechanical traps have become, reminiscing about how easily he bypassed them last year. Dan-wi teasingly admits he only got snagged today because he was floating through with his eyes closed, but Gwang-eum isn't buying his outrageous bluff for a single second. Slicing through the net in a flash, Dan-wi lands effortlessly on his feet, chuckling that he came to protect little Soso, though it seems the trap took care of business first. Stepping up to his junior, Dan-wi teases Gwang-eum about tying his long hair back, directly calling out that he only did it because he listened to his advice. Gwang-eum flusteredly insists it was just for equipment maintenance. Watching the moody boy blush, Dan-wi smiles softly, secretly realizing that behind all those prickly walls, Gwang-eum is still just a vulnerable kid deep down. In a quiet flashback, torches flicker against ancient stone walls as the harsh reality of the martial world echoes, questioning if chivalry truly justifies ruthless slaughter over simple grudges. A radiant memory of little Soso's innocent, bright smile flashes across his mind. A reminder of the purity they are fighting to protect. Dan-wi reflects on how profound the young girl's words were, questioning how an 8-year-old child could carry such deep wisdom. Snapping back to reality, Dan-wi dramatically dabs his eyes on his sleeve, wiping away fake tears right in front of a bewildered Gwang-eum. Throwing his arms around Gwang-eum's shoulders, Dan-wi tearfully gushes over how heartwarming it is to see him care for Soso, especially after offering to teach her mechanical formations himself. Shoving his senior away with a burning red face, Gwang-eum screams that the little brat was the one begging to learn. Honestly, watching this tsundere engineer melt from a single compliment is top-tier comedy. Trying to regain his cool composure, Gwang-eum petty bans Dan-wi from his annex, only for Dan-wi to casually mention that he'll just give all the sweet candied fruits he brought to Soso instead. Before Gwang-eum can even protest, Dan-wi shoves a warm, delicious bake snack right into his mouth to shut him up. Crossing his arms with a mischievous grin, Dan-wi asks if the treat tastes good, while Gwang-eum stands there with his cheeks stuffed like a cute little squirrel. Chewing awkwardly with a deep blush, Gwang-eum grumbles under his breath that he never asked for a snack in the first place. Shift over to the bright sunlit training grounds, where Dan-wi sits across from Soso on a dirt trail, reviewing her progress on circulating internal energy while running. Holding up a delicate cherry blossom petal, Dan-wi explains that to unlock true high-speed movement, she must learn how to masterfully manipulate her inner chi on demand. With a gentle flick of his fingers, he lofts the petal into the air, telling her to watch closely as he demonstrates. Blasting forward like a phantom breeze, Dan-wi glides across the grass so fast his silhouette blurs, stepping lightly on the falling petals without crushing them. Reappearing instantly behind Soso, he prompts her to turn around and inspect the exact spot where he launched his sprint. Soso's jaw drops in shock as she sees a deep, defined crater pressed into the packed earth. Dan-wi explains that he intentionally anchored his weight into the ground to build burst momentum before making himself weightless, proving that real mastery lies in controlling gravity itself. Chibi Soso grumbles as Dan-wi playfully rubs her head, complaining internally that no matter how correctly she answers, this guy still finds a reason to tease her. Analyzing his movement technique, Soso realizes that Dan-wi's simple running tutorial is actually an advanced variation of legendary grass-gliding flight. Her big blue eyes sparkle in sheer awe, realizing her senior brother casually demonstrated top-tier martial arts just to teach her basic cardio. Soso nods in solemn agreement with herself, deciding right then and there that sticking close to this absurdly powerful senior is her safest path to survival. Standing tall like a strict drill sergeant, Danwi orders her to repeat the footwork drill 100 times, causing poor Soso to collapse onto the dirt in total despair, whimper. Suddenly, a divine aura bathes the path as Master appears in flowing white robes, surrounded by drifting flowers and glowing light. Master warmly asks if Danwi is picking on her, causing Danwi to bow low and frantically swear that Soso is an absolute saint compared to Gwangham. Soso instantly remembers Gwangyum's terrifying study sessions where he mercilessly berated her intelligence and dumped 7 massive cultivation manuals on her desk. Master chuckles knowingly, teasing Danwi that it sounds like he's the one bullying her, sending Soso into a silent rage as she grits her teeth at her senior brother. Danwi dramatically defends his honor, shouting that he treats Soso like royalty, scoff, and calling out Master for trying to stir up unnecessary drama. Unfurl holding his wooden fan, Master snaps it open with a crisp click. Snap, instantly shifting the entire mood to business. Bowing respectfully before his master, Danwi listens attentively as Master reveals he has a critical off-mountain mission for him. Master instructs him to fetch a phantom yin pill and 2 human skin disguise masks from senior brother Hyeong-ak, leaving Soso completely baffled as to why they need fake faces. Master flashes a tranquil, knowing smile as he pauses before dropping his final instruction. Turning his gaze down to the tiny girl, Master casually orders Soso to pack her bags and join Danwi on the journey. Soso's eyes bulge in total panic, screeching out in disbelief that she's being dragged out into the dangerous martial world already. Ah! Reassuring her that Danwi's protection guarantees total safety, Master orders them to leave immediately, while Danwi sighs over having to leave his cozy mountain life behind. Danwi hands her the mission letter, telling her to stop hyperventilating and go pack her traveling bundle. Crouching down to tie her tiny pink shoes, Soso dutifully nods, preparing to fetch the disguise items from senior brother Hyeong-ak. Master reminds Danwi that this situation must be completely resolved within 5 days, noting that Soso's improved lightness technique will make traveling to Hubei a breeze. Hearing the target destination, Soso literally faceplants into the dirt in utter horror. Clutching her head on the ground, Soso frantically screams in her mind, realizing they are heading straight into Hwanghyun County. A terrifying vision of the game's original prologue flashes before her eyes, showing a blood-soaked protagonist standing amidst a burning, destroyed village. Soso shudders with absolute dread, remembering that Hwanghyun County is where the villainous protagonist undergoes his apocalyptic awakening event, and overlapping paths with that monster means certain death. Imagine finding out your next field trip is straight into the villain's awakening zone. Trembling like a leaf on the dirt floor, Soso looks like she's having a full-blown existential crisis, forcing her master to lean down with a concerned frown. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Rolling around in the dirt, Soso clutches her stomach and puts on an award-winning performance of a dying child to dodge this deadly mission. Both Master and Danwi panic as they hover over her, gasp, genuinely convinced that their little prodigy was suddenly hit with a deadly internal illness. Without wasting a single second, Danwi scoops Soso up onto his back and sprints full speed through the Sect grounds towards the medical hall. Cut over to the peaceful, sunlit courtyard of 3rd Senior Brother Hyeong-ak's medical clinic, where absolute silence usually reigns supreme. Sitting in solemn meditation, the Sect's legendary medical master Hyeong-ak looks like the definition of Zen, while the other 2 hover behind him in total chaos. Soso quakes in her seat with a nervous sweat, suddenly realizing that faking a stomachache in front of the world's best doctor was the dumbest move she's ever made. Without even needing a pulse check, Hyeong-ak calmly hands her a small ceramic bottle, instructing her to chug the potion down. Desperate to keep up her cover story, Soso drains the entire bottle in one go without even asking what's inside. Miraculously, her fake stomachache vanishes instantly. Seriously, this doctor's placebos are so potent, they cure illnesses that didn't even exist in the first place. Danwi lets out a sigh of relief while Master chuckles behind his fan, giggle, thoroughly entertained by the little girl's dramatic performance. Hyeong-ak offers a gentle smile, wishing her a safe journey on what will officially be her very first step into the unpredictable martial world. As Danwi asks about the disguise items, Master softly calls out Soso's name, drawing her attention. Leaning down with him, Master whispers that the terrifying fate she's panicking about isn't going to happen. Soso's big blue eyes freeze in utter shock. She panics internally, wondering if her mysterious master literally just read her thoughts like an open book. Master softly clarifies that she's destined to find her true purpose out on Green Mountain Peak, easing her racing mind with his gentle wisdom. Turning around with a teasing look, Danwy steps up to Soso as they prepare to wrap up their prep work. He chuckles, asking if she was really that terrified of stepping foot outside the mountain gates. Soso puffs out her cheeks with a hilarious smug expression, grumbling under her breath that she just refuses to lose to that moody engineer Gwangum. Before she can rant any further, Danwy smothers her face with a soft human skin mask, telling her to shut up and gear up. Checking her reflection, Soso marvels at how completely seamless the disguise feels on her face. Talk about top-tier cosmetics. Danwy slung his wooden traveling staff and bindle over his shoulder, ready to hit the road. Hype levels reach maximum as the duo pumps their fist, swearing to crush this errand and prove Gwangum wrong, while back in his annex, Gwangum randomly sneezes in confusion. Waving their arms wildly, they dash out of the courtyard, shouting their goodbyes to the masters. Hyeong-ak and Master wave back with warm smiles, watching the energetic pair embark on their big adventure. Peeking over his fan, Master's eyes shine with a deep, knowing look, almost like he already knows how epic this journey is going to be. A dramatic transition panel sets the stage, questioning what grand destiny awaits our heroes down below. Under the bright blue sky, Danwy and Soso stride down the mountain path, ready to conquer the vast martial arts wilderness. Reaching the edge of Green Mountain Peak, they look down at a dizzying drop surrounded by sea clouds. A dramatic close-up of a boot stepping right onto the crumbling precipice. One wrong step and it's a long way down. Looking down the vertical drop, Soso gulps in absolute terror, wondering if jumping off a cliff is really part of the training syllabus. Danwy kneels beside her with a comforting smile, reminding her that she's already a speed demon and promising to guard her back every step of the way. Her eyes sparkle with newfound determination. If her senior brother trusts her, she's going to give it everything she's got. Leaping together right off the edge, they dive headfirst into the open sky. Mid-fall, Soso locks her focus, controlling her internal energy to anchor her weight just like Danwy taught her. Her tiny pink shoe slams against the sheer rock cliff, absorbing the momentum in a flash. Bouncing off the vertical wall like a pinball, she cascades down the cliff face with unbelievable agility. Gliding effortlessly through the air, Soso realizes with a burst of excitement that she's actually pulling off grass gliding flight. She marvels internally at her own growth, feeling like she's officially mastered the legendary earth-shrinking step. Hitting the ground safely, Soso catches her breath while Danwy unrolls their travel map against the cliff wall. Looking up at the towering rock faces above, Soso wipes her brow, stunned by how terrifyingly high Green Mountain Peak actually is. Danwy chuckles dryly, pointing out that the crazy height is the only reason those Mount Yang Sect fools haven't raided their headquarters yet. Reaching down, Danwy fixes up Soso's messy hair, treating her like a sweet little sister. Setting a serious tone, Danwy raises his finger to explain the details of their secret undercover mission. The mission rules are simple. Soso is playing the role of a spoiled young lady from a wealthy merchant guild, and Danwy is her humble bodyguard. Soso strikes a fabulous pose with her decorative silk fan while Danwy stands guard like a stoic warrior. Look at this power duo. A devious grin spreads across Soso's face as her brain fires on all cylinders, realizing she can finally order Danwy around like a servant as payback for all his teasing. Pointing at the map with his stick, Danwy instructs her to call him Young Hero Hui as they chart their path through Wongun County and Hubi. He tells her not to stress over the complex geography since he's got all the navigation covered, and Soso happily cheers along, chuckles, ready for the adventure ahead. Imagine riding into town perched high on your senior brother's shoulders like absolute royalty. Soso takes in the breathtaking view of the bustling marketplace, gasping in total awe as the colorful street comes alive before her eyes. Fully leaning into her fake identity as a spoiled young lady, Soso points straight at a steaming food stall, loudly demanding her bodyguard buy her some delicious street food right this second. Without breaking character for even a microsecond, Danwy smoothly hands over a silver token, ordering a spread of hot steamed buns and fresh dumplings to satisfy his little mistress's endless appetite. Friendly female vendor smiles warmly, handing over a massive, freshly steamed bun that looks bigger than Soso's entire face. Ouch! The bun is so ridiculously scalding hot that Soso squeals in surprise, forcing Danwy to swoop in and grab the burning dumpling before she fries her tiny fingers. Balancing the piping hot treat back on his shoulder, Danwy offers it to her with a charming smile, while Soso blushes and stammers out a sweet thank you. Munching away happily, Soso squints at him internally. Seriously, why is this guy taking this bodyguard roleplay so seriously? He hasn't even blinked once, and it's starting to get low-key intimidating. But as she chews on her bun, her bright blue eyes sharpen as she remembers the critical warnings her senior brother gave her back on the mountain. Scanning the crowd below, Soso notices that despite the lively market facade, something feels deeply off about the townspeople's expressions. Tucked away in a shadowy side alley, two shady figures in dark robes stand whispering in secret, radiating total bad news. Acting fast, Soso reaches down and lightly pokes the side of Danwee's neck, tapping out their prearranged secret code to signal that something suspicious is going down. Masterfully playing along, Danwee pretends to wipe his brow, loudly announcing that it's been a long journey and he'll escort her to their guild's local inn to rest up. Behind his calm servant mask, Danwee's green eyes glint with sharp tactical awareness, receiving her warning loud and clear. Arriving at the grand entrance of the Heavenly Luck Inn, Soso's jaw drops. Wait, she genuinely thought the Heavenly Luck Merchant Guild was just a made-up fake cover story, but they actually own real estate? Stepping into the spacious lobby, the attentive innkeeper bows politely, asking if the esteemed travelers require a room or a table for dining. Maintaining his stoic composure, Danwee firmly requests a room, declaring that he is escorting the young lady of the prestigious Heavenly Luck Guild. Instantly recognizing their high status, the waiter bows repeatedly, eagerly guiding them straight up to the second-floor VIP premium suite. Prancing into the luxurious room, Soso sparkles with delight at the high-end decor. Talk about living the lavish life on a secret mission. The moment the door shuts, Danwee flicks his wrist to cast a sound isolation barrier, effortlessly peeling off his human skin disguise mask with a satisfied smirk. Soso stares in absolute shock. How in the world does this guy switch back from a stoic bodyguard to a lazy senior brother in literally 1 second flat? Chugging a deep swig from his liquor gourd, Danwee chuckles casually, bragging that it takes years of high-level training to master that kind of acting. Leaning over the wooden table, Soso tilts her head in curiosity, mischievous scoff, asking what kind of insane training could possibly make someone such a natural-born liar. Setting his gourd down, Danwee gets straight to business, asking Soso what exact danger she spotted that prompted her to use the secret neckpoke code downstairs. Soso explains that while the town looks thriving on the surface, many of the locals and street vendors had strangely gloomy, terrified expressions. She points out that even the sweet vendor who sold them the dumplings had fresh bandages hidden beneath his sleeve, clearly covering up recent battle injuries. Connecting the dots like a true detective, Soso asks if local unorthodox gangs are running a protection tax racket in a city this massive. Danwee reaches out and pats her arm approvingly, sighs with relief. Spot on. Slamming his gourd onto the table, Danwee reveals that this territory is supposed to be protected by the famous Zuge clan, but their recent neglect allowed local thugs to run wild. Hearing the legendary Zuge clan mentioned, Soso's eyes light up, asking what their game plan is going to be. Stripping off his disguise layers, Danwee grins deviously, declaring that they're going to step in and give the slacking Zuge clan a little unexpected helping hand. Soso gasps in excitement, so they actually get to play the righteous good guys for once? Danwee just smirks, replying, for now, yes. Deep in thought, Soso realizes this situation matches the lore of the original martial arts game she used to play in her past life. Flashbacks of the game script scroll through her memory like a computer screen. The game text clearly documented that several local gangs in Hubei began impersonating the feared demonic cult to extort and intimidate the populace. She remembers reading about how the Zuge clan eventually figured out the fake cultist tactics and wiped him out. Imagining the grand Zuge clan master holding his iconic strategist fan, Soso realizes they are walking right into an iconic historical event. Suddenly, Danwee steps up and grabs Soso's shoulders, snapping her right back to reality. Leaning down with a mischievous glint in his eye, Danwee instructs her to stay put upstairs until she hears a massive bang and crash from downstairs, then make her dramatic entrance. Flash-forwarding that wicked smirk, Danwee turns around, ready to turn the whole inn upside down. Giving a determined nod, Soso agrees to the plan as Danwee slips out into the hallway. Kneeling by the wooden sliding door, Soso presses her ear against the floorboards, waiting in total silence for her chaotic signal. Right on cue, a massive impact shakes the floorboards as yelling and shattering wood echo from the lobby below. Bursting out onto the balcony, Soso slides into a hilarious superhero pose, screaming out at the top of her lungs, "Do you know who I am?" Looking down from the upper floor railings, she spots a tense standoff unfolding in the middle of the main dining hall. Two young martial artists from the Zhu clan gasp. A sword-wielding brother and a dagger-holding sister are confronting a gang of rough thugs. The lead thug sneers maliciously, drawing his blade while asking if these naive kids have ever heard of the terrifying demonic cult. The Zhuge siblings freeze in absolute horror, recoiling at the terrifying mention of the demonic cult. Armed with sharp sabers, the fake cultists demand that the inn hand over the wealthy merchant guest staying upstairs or face total slaughter. Gripping her throwing knives tightly, the Zhuge sister notices little Soso peeking over the railing and vows to protect the innocent child at all costs. Stepping out from the shadow of the stairs, Danwi takes Soso's tiny hand, declaring in a booming voice that anyone causing a scene and scaring his young lady is gonna pay with their life. The Zhuge siblings stand frozen in complete shock as a powerful presence suddenly interrupts the confrontation. Soso instantly turns on her top-tier acting skills, gasp, cowering behind Danwi like a terrified little girl while begging her protector for help. Step into the spotlight, Danwi shields her with an impenetrable aura, calmly assuring his young mistress that she's completely safe. With a sharp glance, Danwi casually exposes the thugs, pointing out that their sloppy aura proves they aren't real members of the demonic cult at all. Man, exposing fake villains on the spot is always so satisfying. Drawing his blade with effortless grace, Danwi declares that these low-tier thugs are nothing but leeching scum who prey on weak villagers. The Zhuge brother stammers in disbelief, asking if these guys are really frauds, while Danwi offers to deliver instant proof with a sword. The Zhuge sister clutches her throwing knives in surprise, wondering who this insanely confident bodyguard could possibly be. Behind her sweet, innocent facade, Soso smirks like a mastermind, knowing these fake cultists just signed their own death warrants. Before the thugs can even react, Danwi leaps into the air like a phantom, slicing through their formation with terrifying speed. In a flash, all the thugs are knocked out flat on the floorboards, completely immobilized by basic martial techniques. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the Zhuge siblings bow deeply, marveling at how a young warrior could possess such monstrous martial skill. Seriously? Look at the state of this inn floor. One quick fight and the poor landlord is going to need a full floorboard renovation. Curious about his godly swordsmanship, the Zhuge sister politely inquires which famous sect Danwi belongs to. Danwi just gives a gentle, mysterious smile, claiming his sword technique was picked up while wandering the land, keeping his real sect a total secret. Soso gives an approving nod. Watching her senior brother play the humble, mysterious wanderer card is pure comedy. Flashbacks show how effortlessly Danwi dismantled those thugs without even breaking a sweat, or revealing high-tier moves. Suddenly, a bright glowing cyan pill rolls out from the defeated thug's robes onto the wooden floor. The Zhuge brother gasps in sheer amazement, identifying it as the legendary Phantom Yin pill. Soso squints internally, realizing that Danwi intentionally planted that priceless spirit pill on the thug during the fight to advance their secret scheme. Playing along, Danwi holds up the pill, pretending it was looted treasure recovered from the gang. Danwi turns to Soso with respect, asking if their merchant guild should hand over the precious pill to the Zhu clan for safekeeping. Soso beams with pure sweetness, happily agreeing to gift the pill to help the Zhuge clan protect the region. The Zhuge siblings are moved to tears, praising the Heavenly Luck Merchant Guild for their selfless generosity and noble spirit. So Soso calculates the outcome in her mind. Giving them the spirit pill will help the Zhuge clan study cult tactics and boost their strength before the upcoming war. With their undercover mission executed to perfection, Soso and Danwi head upstairs into their private guest room. The moment the door shuts, Soso leaps into Danwi's arms, cheering happily for his brilliant performance. Danwi laughs heartily, feeling completely relaxed and eager to grab a celebratory drink after a successful op. He reaches for his trusty liquor gourd, only to realize it's completely dry. Heading out the door, Danwi instructs Soso to practice reciting her cultivation mantras while he grabs some fresh alcohol from downstairs. Minutes turn into an eternity as Soso lies flat on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling in total boredom. Tugging at her face, Soso realizes she needs help peeling off her itchy human skin mask before she can go to sleep. Unable to wait any longer, she hops off the bed, determined to go downstairs and hunt for her slackened senior brother. The inn guard warns her not to wander off into the dark, but Soso just waves it off with a cheerful promise. Stepping out into the vibrant night marketplace, Soso wanders through the lantern-lit streets calling out for young hero Hui. Her voice echoes down quiet side alleys as the bustling crowd thins out into shadowy brick corridors. Suddenly, a low, agonizing grunt echoes from a dark alleyway, stopping Soso dead in her tracks. Peeking around the corner, Soso hears a desperate man crying out for mercy in the pitch-black darkness. Looking down from above, a terrifying white-haired figure stands ominously over a kneeling victim. With an eye patch and blood-stained robes, the menacing cultist places a heavy, dark chi-infused hand onto the victim's head. Before the man can even finish begging, the cultist brutally crushes his head with dark energy, leaving blood splattered across the walls. Soso slams her hand over her mouth in absolute horror. This isn't some low-tier fake gang, that's the real demonic cult. Realization hits her like a truck. The actual heavenly demon cult has entered the city to ruthlessly execute anyone impersonating them. Suddenly, a shadowy arm lunges out from behind and snatches Soso out of sight. Soso struggles wildly as a filthy, blood-stained hand clamps tightly over her mouth. A battered young boy with sharp golden eyes whispers frantically in her ear, telling her to stay quiet if she wants to live. Soso's eyes widen in utter shock, recognizing this bruised kid as Hyeong, the future heavenly demon and protagonist of the entire story world. If you're loving this insane plot twist, smash that like button and subscribe to follow Soso's adventure. The white-haired cultist turns his cold gaze toward them, unleashing a brutal whip attack that shatters the alley wall. Hyeong throws his own body in front of Soso, shielding her from flying debris while taking a painful blow to his back. Blood dripping from his lips, Hyeong forcefully shoves Soso away, yelling at her to run and never look back. Forced into a desperate sprint, Soso flees into the night while leaving the young future heavenly demon behind to face the monster. Imagine sneaking out of your secret cult base, only for your terrifying boss to find out you let an unauthorized little girl follow you. Hyeong's internal panic is reaching absolute code red right now as he realizes how dead he is if his superior catches him. Soso looks at him deadpan, pointing out the obvious, scoffing tone. If the cult catches him right now, he's basically a dead man walking. Hyeong can only give a defeated, gloomy nod, admitting that, yeah, he's totally doomed. But instead of abandoning him to his fate, Soso grabs his filthy blackened hand without a single second of hesitation. She boldly declares that they should just run away together, leaving poor Hyeong completely speechless. Before he can even process what's happening, Soso drags him by the wrist, gasping, screaming at him to move his legs before they both get turned into ghost fodder. She leaps straight into the air like an absolute martial arts master, pulling Hyeong along as they blur through the night sky using high-tier lightness steps. Hyeong's jaw practically hits the floor as he flies through the air, wondering how on earth a cute, rich young lady knows high-level martial arts footwork. Oh, man, if he only knew she's actually a reincarnated gamer with top-tier knowledge. Beaming with confidence, Soso tells him she spotted the perfect secret hideout before they ever set foot in Hwanggun County. Directing him toward a shadowy, secluded, thatched-roof barn tucked way far away from the main streets, Soso shouts that their safe house is right ahead. The moment they burst inside the barn, Soso dives headfirst right into a giant pile of dried straw like a hyperactive squirrel. Parting the heavy hay with both arms, she triumphantly reveals a hidden hollow spot inside and urges Hyeong to dive in quick. Hyeong stares at the makeshift straw fortress in utter disbelief, asking if she's seriously suggesting they hide an animal feed. Soso just proudly nods like it's a 5-star luxury hotel. Crammed tight inside the hay, Hyeong lets out a heavy sigh, offering to step outside and draw the cultist fire so Soso can escape. But Soso snaps right back, telling him to shut up and stay put because nobody's getting caught today. Suddenly, the wooden barn door creaks open, revealing the terrifying white-haired cultist standing ominously with a blood-drenched hand. Inside the straw pile, Soso and Hyeong instantly clamp their hands over their mouths, freeze-frame terror washing over both their faces. Talk about absolute heart-stopping suspense. The battle-scarred cultist steps slowly into the barn, holding his murderous whip blade while noting that the target used a rare, high-level lightness footwork he's never seen before. Looming right over the haystack, the cultist sneers to himself, deciding she'll make an entertaining gift to present to his left guardian. Right beside her, Soso feels poison trembling uncontrollably while clutching his head in sheer agony. She realizes with a heavy heart that this boy, the future ruthless heavenly demon, is completely paralyzed by trauma right now. Looking at his terrified face, Soso reflects on how the novel made his tragic backstory sound like mere fantasy text, forgetting the brutal reality this poor kid actually lived through. Suddenly, heavy leather boots come to a dead stop right at the edge of the hay pile. The cultist grips his massive blade with bloody hands, coldly muttering that they're fleeing footsteps and right here. Soso doesn't hesitate for a single second, pulling Hyeong tightly against her chest, wrapping her arms around his head, and whispering softly that everything is gonna be all right. High above them, the ruthless cultist raises his heavy blade with both hands, aiming straight down into the straw pile. With a terrifying roar, the blade surges with blood-red dark ki as he plunges it downward with killer intent. Leaning all his weight onto the hilt, he drives the massive steel blade straight into the center of the haystack. The gleaming blood-stained blade pierces straight through the straw, stopping literally millimeters away from Soso's nose. Seeing no blood on the tip, the cultist lets out an annoyed grunt, sliding his heavy sword out of the straw. Turning on his heel, he walks out into the night, muttering under his breath that those little rats got insanely lucky this time. The moment his footsteps fade away, Soso and Hyeong completely collapse face first onto the straw in pure comical relief. I swear if my heart beat any faster during that blind stab, it would have blown out of my chest. Shaking off the panic, Soso immediately kneels next to Hyeong, grabbing his shoulders to check if he got grazed by that terrifying blade. Hyeong just stares at her with wide golden eyes, gasping, stuttering out how on earth she managed to dodge a blind kill shot from a master assassin. Soso smirks internally, recalling the hyper-specific lore of the original web novel. In chase scenes, the demonic cult always stabs the right side first because faithful cultists consider the left side unclean ever since the Left Guardian betrayed them in the Great War. But obviously, trying to explain web novel game mechanics and ancient cult superstition to a traumatized child would make her sound completely insane. So she just puffs out her cheeks proudly, flipping her hair while hilariously claiming she survived purely thanks to her god-tier survival instincts. Hyeong can only stare in complete confusion. Softening his gaze, Hyeong looks down, quietly thanking her for saving his life back there. Soso offers a bright, heartwarming smile, extending her tiny hand out and eagerly asking for his real name. Standing up from the hay, the young boy wipes his brow and tells her to just call him Rang. Soso's eyes light up with pure hype. Rang is the default protagonist name in the original game if you don't type in a custom nickname, confirming 100% that this kid is the main character. Crawling slightly backward into the shadows, Hyeong eyes her fancy silk clothes, telling her she looks like a high-class noble lady who has no business wandering around dangerous slums alone. Soso shakes her head cheerfully, correcting him that she's definitely not some spoiled clan heiress. Hyeong tilts his head, wondering who she could possibly be then. Suddenly, Hyeong's face twists in violent agony as he clutches his abdomen, letting out an excruciating groan. Soso gasps in worry and reaches out to help, but Hyeong frantically backs away, screaming at her not to touch him. Ignoring his warnings, Soso pulls out a tube of healing salve, insisting that she has top-grade ointment for his injuries. Soso grabs his robes and pulls them open, only to freeze in absolute horror at what's hidden underneath. Hyeong's entire chest and stomach are covered in horrific pitch-black veins, radiating out from a jagged black-stained scar near his Dantian energy center. Touching the black residue, Soso realizes with utter dread that the cult forcefully slices muscles to inject demonic arts directly into his energy core, using forbidden goo poison. No ointment on earth could ever heal such dark corruption. Panicking, Hyeong forcefully shoves her hands away, yelling that touching demonic ki is extremely dangerous and scolding her for being so reckless. But as Soso stumbles backward, Hyeong's cheeks suddenly flush bright red with embarrassment. Sitting awkward on the floorboards, both of them bow their heads in super adorable chibi fashion, profusely apologizing to each other for pushing too hard. Soso's eyes widen as a critical piece of lore suddenly clicks in her head. Ask if his sudden outburst was because his Dantian wound makes him hypersensitive? Clutching his stomach with a pained expression, Hyeong quietly admits that the dark energy inside his fresh wound is still violently reacting, leaving Soso realizing the demonic arts haven't fully taken over his body yet. Leaning in dangerously close, Soso locks eyes with the boy, demanding to know why on earth he saved her life when he's literally working for the evil cult chasing them. Blushing bright crimson under her intense glare, awkward chuckle, Hyeong looks away awkwardly, stammering that she's way too young and didn't deserve to die back there. Soso's eyes sparkle with pure excitement. She knows for a fact that a brainwashed cult slave would never show compassion like that, proving the future heavenly demon hasn't been completely corrupted yet. In a burst of pure joy, Soso tightly grabs his blackened hand, declaring how insanely thrilled she is to have met him before he turned evil. Ryan quickly snatches his arm back, staring at her like she's lost her mind while asking what ridiculous nonsense she's rambling about now. Ryan just approaches him with a gentle smile and calmly states that he knows just what he likes because she knows him better than anyone does. She leans in and whispers, "Do you still not remember me, my love?" Soso tilts her head thoughtfully, pointing out that despite being in unbearable pain from dark corruption, he still risked his life to keep her safe from his own superior. Dusting off his ragged robes, Ryan gruffly tells her to just forget every single thing that happened tonight if she wants to stay alive, and Soso cheerfully agrees without a second thought. But just as he turns toward the exit, the young boy pauses near the straw pile, placing his corrupted hand down as curiosity gets the better of him. Turning back around, Ryan hesitates for a second before softly asking for her real name, catching Soso completely off guard. Looking down with a soft, bashful expression, the future villain looks so adorable that it's almost impossible to believe he grows up to be a ruthless monster. Soso panics internally, knowing she obviously can't drop her real aristocratic name, so she cleverly tells him to just call her Soso like her close friends do. Suddenly, before they can even say goodbye, the wooden barn door violently slides open. In a blinding flash of motion, a shadowy figure swoops in from the darkness, scooping Soso up into his arms in the blink of an eye. As Soso gets whisked away through the night sky, Ryan desperately reaches out his dark-stained hand toward her, watching her disappear into the shadows. Standing frozen in the empty barn, Ryan turns around to see a chilling, high-ranking cultist stepping through the doorway. Looming over the boy with an icy gaze, the left guardian softly asks who on earth he was just hanging out with inside a dark barn. Rung quickly bows his head in submission, lying through his teeth that she was just some random commoner girl, though the left guardian immediately questions how a simple commoner could possibly keep up with elite cult footwork. Narrowing his eyes, the master assassin demands to at least know this mysterious girl's name before deciding her fate. Clenching his fists, Ryan stands completely silent, refusing to utter a single word that could put Soso in danger. When the left guardian pressures him again, Ryan simply lowers his head deeper, quietly apologizing while protecting her identity with his life. Snapping his iron fan shut, the left guardian decides not to push the boy any further, though you just know he's plotting something sinister behind that calm face. Coldly ordering Ryan to follow him, the master assassin announces he'll have a centurion track down the high-level martial artist who carried the girl away. Walking behind his superior, Ryan lets out a quiet sigh of relief, thankful that Soso was rescued by a powerful ally rather than captured by the cult. But as he clutches his aching chest, a sudden wave of confusion washes over him. Wondering why his heart feels so surprisingly warm just knowing she's safe. Glancing up at the full moon through the lush forest canopy, the young boy can't stop thinking about the cheerful girl who held his hand without fear. Meanwhile, zooming through the dark woods at breakneck speeds, a mysterious martial artist carries Soso like a sack of potatoes while she screams at the top of her lungs for mercy. Crying buckets of tears, Soso frantically blabbers that she's just an innocent merchant kid and promises to pay a mountain loads of cash if he just lets her live. The man bursts into uncontrollable laughter, revealing his face and prompting Soso to gasp in absolute shock as she recognizes her own senior brother Danwi. The instant she realizes she's safe, Soso starts furiously beating his chest with her tiny fist, screaming at him for taking so long to show up and almost giving her a heart attack. Pouting like a disgruntled potato, Soso whines that his hyperspeed lightness steps are making her stomach do backflips through the air. The second Danwi lands on a high cliff edge, Soso drops to her knees and violently throws up her entire dinner right onto the rocks. Talk about a glamorous martial arts landing. Crouching down beside her, Danwi chuckles in amazement, asking how on earth a little kid managed to survive an encounter with the terrifying demonic cult. Wiping her mouth with a panicked expression, Soso stammers out a question, asking if their master really had no idea the actual demonic cult was lurking in this region. Danwi shakes his head solemnly, pointing out that if their master had known, he would have never left her side for even a single second. Soso rubs her head in total confusion, recalling how her enigmatic master assured her that nothing bad would happen. Gasp! But she literally ran right into the story's main protagonist. A terrifying thought suddenly hits her. What if this entire dangerous encounter was calculated by her master from the very beginning? Imagining her master moving them around like chess pieces on a board, Soso realizes she might just be a pawn in an insanely massive grand strategy. Connecting the dots, she realizes her master sending spirit pills to major clans means he already knows the apocalyptic war between good and evil is about to break out again. Suddenly, before she can finish her internal monologue, Danwi forcefully grabs her wrist with a deadly serious expression. Narrowing his eyes, senior brother Danwi urgently asks what on earth she touched while she was separated from him. Soso looks down at her hands in utter horror as pitch-black corrupted veins start creeping across her fingertips. The dark demonic energy writhes under her skin like living poison, threatening to corrupt her entire body. Panicking internally, Soso realizes this black chi must have infected her when she pulled open Ryang's robes back in the barn. But she can't understand why the corruption took so long to show up when she felt totally fine just a few minutes ago. Seeing her confusion, Danwi explains that demonic poison hides beneath the surface initially before violently spreading through the bloodstream. Reaching into his robes, he notes that while her massive internal energy usually repels dark arts, her lack of master-level cultivation allowed the poison to seep in over time. He pulls out a glowing clearance pill and shoves it into her mouth, ordering her to swallow it whole before the corruption reaches her core. Sitting cross-legged on the stone cliff, Danwi instructs her to assume the lotus position and channel her internal energy step by step to flush out the toxin. Closing her eyes and taking a deep breath, sharp sigh, Soso initiates the cultivation of harmonious essence to fight off the dark energy. Pulsating with a brilliant, shimmering blue aura, Soso concentrates all her spiritual force into her fingertips to purge the demonic corruption. Imagine waking up in a fantasy world only to find out your secret internal energy is literally powered by demonic sacrifices. As the glowing blue aura clears away the remaining corruption, senior brother Danwi stares at Soso's hands with a completely bewildered look, muttering about how bizarre her energy signature actually is. Soso tilts her head in total confusion, asking what on earth he just noticed, but Danwi quickly brushes it off like it's no big deal. Classic martial arts mentor move, refusing to explain the plot details until the very last second. Looking around at the towering fog-shrouded cliffs glowing under the moonlight, Soso finally realizes they've ended up somewhere completely isolated and asks why he dragged her out here. With a super charming smirk and a twinkle in his eye, Danwi casually tells her that he brought her all the way into the middle of nowhere just to ditch her permanently. Soso's jaw literally hits the floor as she shrieks in absolute terror. Talk about major trust issues coming back to haunt her. Bursting into fits of laughter, Danwi admits he was just messing with her, prompting Soso to furiously beat his ribs with her tiny fists. Seriously, giggle. Teasing your overpowered little sister should be considered a martial arts crime at this point. Wiping away a tear of amusement, Danwi asks if she actually wants to meet their master's mysterious old friend who's waiting for them. Soso's eyes instantly light up with starry-eyed curiosity. Any friend of her cryptic master is bound to be a walking spoiler for the entire plot. Danwi explains that the friend requested to meet her personally, which is why he panicked when he found her missing from the inn earlier, leaving Soso bowing her head in bashful apology. Taking a step forward, Danwi reassures her that since she kept her magical disguise mask on the whole time, no one from the cult could have identified her true face. Sweeping her along with his effortless lightness steps, the two of them leap through the night sky toward a colossal ancient rock wall. Landing softly, Danwi asks why she's still wearing that fake face, only for Soso to awkwardly admit she has zero clue how to peel the thing off her skin. Chuckling softly, senior brother Danwi reaches down and delicately unpeels the translucent mask from her face like a peel-off cucumber face pack. He summons a warm, magical flame in his palm to light up the dark cliff, only for the bright glow to reveal a terrifying human skull staring back at them from the rocks. Soso lets out a high-pitched shriek. In a panic, Soso dives forward and wraps her arms around his leg like a terrified koala, screaming about the bone skeleton, while Danwi just looks down with an amused smirk. Soso tearfully yells that finding a human skull hidden inside a cliff wall is objectively scary. Honestly, you can't blame her. Most kid protagonists don't usually go on casual midnight strolls through catacombs. Danwi rubs his chin in fascination, pointing out how ironic it is that she was completely fearless around a blood-stained cult assassin, yet freaks out over a dusty old bone. Soso lowers her head quietly, explaining that the boy didn't feel evil, he just looked pitiful and trapped, adding that she already knows all about the dark nature of the demonic cult. A realm built strictly on the brutal survival of the fittest, where weak slaves either get crushed into dust or rise up through rivers of blood to become the unstoppable heavenly demon. Walking down the narrow passage, Danwi solemnly warns her that learning demonic arts eats away at a person's core sanity, making it virtually impossible for anyone to escape the cult once they're dragged in. A quick glimpse of young Ryang shows just how tragic his childhood really was. A helpless, barefoot slave trapped in a dark world where mercy doesn't exist. Stopping in his tracks, Dunwee grabs her shoulder and looks straight into her eyes, warning her in the most serious tone possible never to grow emotionally attached to anyone from the cult. A sudden flash of the boy's bashful, blushing face crosses her mind. Hey, if you were in Soso's shoes, would you be able to ignore a villain who looked that innocent as a kid? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Soso remains quiet for a split second. Heavy breath, feeling a heavy weight in her chest as she processes his warning. Quickly snapping back to her usual cheerful self, Soso beams a bright smile and promises that she has zero intention of ever running off or abandoning her family. Clinging to his side like a cozy marshmallow, she giggles that all she wants is a long, comfortable life, prompting Danwee to chuckle at how surprisingly quick-witted his little sister can be. Their footsteps come to a sudden halt as Danwee announces they finally reached their destination. Staring up at the towering ancient stone wall radiating faint magical vibrations, Soso nervously asks if the secret entrance is really hidden behind solid rock. Instead of using a key or smashing the wall, Danhee casually pulls out a tree leaf and plays a haunting melodic whistle into the night air. Soso's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. As a veteran player of the original game, she recognizes this exact musical key puzzle. It's a secret entrance method reserved strictly for late-game content. Stepping through the newly revealed cavern, Soso remembers that in the original storyline, the main character clears this exact dungeon to seek an audience with the legendary fortune teller known as the Divine Diviner. A sudden shockwave hits her brain. Could her enigmatic master's close friend actually be the highest level lore NPC in the entire world? Parting the bamboo curtain of the inner sanctuary, Danwee respectfully announces that he has brought his youngest junior sibling just as requested. And there he sits, in all his ethereal glory, the divine diviner, Samokseon, blindfolded with silk, draped in majestic robes, and surrounded by slithering black and white snakes. Talk about an S-tier character design. Without hesitating for even a microsecond, Soso drops straight onto her hands and knees in a hilarious ultimate respect kowtow, introducing herself under her fake identity. Gesturing for them to take a seat, the diviner chuckles softly and admits he already knows everything about her, boasting that there isn't a single secret in this realm that escapes his sight. Soso gulps nervously. Normally, she'd write off anyone claiming to know everything as a total scam artist, but game lore confirms this guy can literally read the fabric of fate itself. Samokseon offers to answer the burning question that brought her here, sending Soso into a frenzy of frantic nodding. She desperately needs to know why her master engineered her meeting with the main character. Lowering his voice, dramatic whisper, Samokseon drops a chilling prophecy, revealing that while her master is desperately trying to rewrite her destiny, Soso is still cursed to die a short, sadness, tragic life, unless she actively fights to twist fate itself. A horrifying vision flashes of a blood-red jewel locked in a coffin, a symbol that every single drop of her blood will be drained, leaving her vengeful spirit trapped forever, with no hope of salvation. The blindfolded seer delivers the final blow, promising that if things continue as scheduled, she is destined to suffer the most gruesome, painful death in the entire world. Soso's small hand trembles violently, clutching her silk dress as cold sweat pours down her neck. Offering her a lifeline, Samokseon asks if she wants his personal intervention to alter her doomed fate, prompting Soso to beg for his help without a single second of hesitation. With a subtle wave of his hand, the diviner signals senior brother Danwee to vacate the room so they can talk in absolute privacy. Respecting the seer's authority, Danwee bows deeply and quietly steps backward out of the chamber. Once the curtain falls shut, Samokseon leans in and asks if she knows the true origin of the massive internal energy sleeping inside her body, whispers dramatically, to which Soso shakes her head. Pointing a sharp finger directly at her chest, he drops a bombshell, revealing that her internal energy is actually a sinister, corrupt power created by the demonic cult through harvesting human lifeblood. Soso stammers that her master claimed he had no idea where her power came from, only for Samokseon to coyly cover his mouth, smirking that he might have just let slip a dirty secret he shouldn't have. Gulping hard, Soso stares at the blindfolded seer with a chill running down her spine. A terrifying realization begins to dawn on her. This diviner might be playing a far more dangerous game than anyone realizes. Soso stares at the blindfolded seer in awe as a white snake slithers around his hand. She realizes that unlike her master, who keeps every major plot secret locked in a vault, Samokseon is actually being surprisingly transparent with her. Leaning back, Samokseon reassures her that no one, not even the cult leader himself, will detect that her internal energy originates from the demonic cult. But Soso immediately cuts through the fluff, asking if getting captured still means a horrific death sentence, which the seer casually confirms. Panicking, Soso insists that she's already keeping a low profile and staying miles away from cult business. She nervously asks if she's really still in life-threatening danger, despite doing everything possible to play it safe. Stroking the glistening scales of his white snake, Samokseon casually drops another shocker, asking if she remembers meeting that helpless young slave during her very first step into the martial world. A terrifying vision of the boy wielding a dark blade emerges. Samokseon ominously reveals that the pitiful kid Soso felt sorry for is actually the destined seed meant to rise as the next heavenly demon. Soso's jaw practically drops to the floor. How on earth does this guy know about a random encounter that lasted less than 5 minutes? Talk about having the entire story wiki loaded directly into your brain. Dark, shadowy serpents begin creeping around Soso's feet as Samokseon explains that she carries something the demonic cult has sought for centuries. Breathless excitement. No matter how hard her master tries to shield her, the crushing weight of fate will inevitably hunt her down. Leaning closer, the seer hints that a grim destiny like hers can't simply be dodged. It can only be blocked by an even greater fate. Soso's eyes widen in instant realization. She stammers, asking if he means tying her fate directly to the future heavenly demon himself? Resting his chin on his hand with a sly smirk, Samokseon praises her for being insanely quick on the uptake. Seriously, when your survival instincts are dialed to max, your brain processes plot twists at lightning speed. The diviner drops the ultimate survival directive, telling her outright that if she wants to stay alive, she must force the future villain king to become her ultimate shield. A striking vision flashes of the future heavenly demon standing tall behind Soso, brandishing a glowing sword to protect her from the darkness. The sheer irony of turning the world's most dangerous antagonist into her personal bodyguard is pure genius.